What's up? Ghost Fictions is here and we're back again. This is a story where Izuku was an absolute genius. It was common knowledge that the quirked were superior to the quirkless in every possible way. It was common knowledge that the quirkless were a useless minority, unneeded in today's advanced, superpowered society. Just because it's common knowledge doesn't mean it's correct. Izuku Midoriya was a part of that useless minority. And he was not inferior in any way. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations and support the amazing author Diamond Dragon 23 for writing this story. Now, let's get into the story. Everyone knew the quirkless were weak, useless, pathetic, stupid, inferior to the quirked in every way. Everybody knew that. Izuku, however, knew and proved otherwise. Izuku dedicated himself to quirk analysis once he realized he wouldn't be getting a quirk of his own. By the age of 8, Izuku had taught himself the entire primary school curriculum. By the time he was 11, Izuku had finished his online high school courses. By the time he turned 12, Izuku had picked up coding, which quickly turned into hacking when he turned 13. Izuku was not the top scorer in his school, however. The teachers marked him down or intentionally lost his homework. Izuku was actually at the bottom of his year. The first time it happened he was upset, but when his homework was lost and his grades marked unfairly for the 10th time, Izuku realized what was really going on. The teachers and all of his classmates had quirks. Everyone else in Musatafu probably had a quirk too. Izuku could very well be the only quirkless teenager in Japan. 90% of the world's quirkless population were aged 60 and over. Another 5% were 30 to 59 years old. Of the remaining 5%, 4% of the quirkless were 20 and older. The actual values themselves were more precise, going into the 5th decimal place. Izuku was part of the 0.00024% of the population. At least, according to his calculations. That added up to 1,760 quirkless people aged 19 and under in the world. America had the most quirkless people in the world, followed closely by China, which had the highest population. The UKF, United Kingdom Federation, also had a proportionately high quirkless count. That left around 150 quirkless people 19 and under scattered throughout the rest of the world. Izuku, having hacked into the quirk records of every country and compiled a list of quirkless kids' ages worldwide, found out that he was the youngest. Of any and every quirkless person in the world, he was the youngest. Melissa Shield, daughter to David Shield, was the next youngest. In 13 years, Izuku was the only quirkless person born. Izuku had also done some research on the side of his worldwide hacking project. According to statistics, people with emitter-type quirks got the lowest scores on school tests and exam papers. Transformation types are the next lowest, followed by mutations. The only exceptions to this rule are intelligence quirks, putting them high above the rest. The quirkless are of course at the bottom, below even the emitter-type scores. Or so the official records say, written up by quirked individuals. The quirkless were actually even smarter than intelligence quirk users. Confused? I'll explain. Think for a moment just how much brain power it takes to levitate an object. To push against gravity with just your mind. Or what about ejecting flame from your hands? Your brain needs to keep track of all the extra organs and bits and bobs your quirk needs to function. Transformation quirks are just as bad. Changing the very structure of your body and maintaining it has got to tax a person's mind. Mutations aren't quite so bad because the person's body stays the same and the brain normally mutates alongside the body to accommodate any extra limbs or organs the user acquires. The person is still controlling extra body parts or has stronger senses and more information to process. Animalistic mutations could actually devolve a person's brain, but those cases were rare. The quirkless don't have extra limbs to worry about or have explosive hands to concentrate on 24/7 so they don't kill someone. Intelligence quirks put quirked people on a similar level as the quirkless, but it's still taxing on the base human brain to have so much information assaulting it at once. The quirkless were genii among men. Izuku was a genius among the quirkless. Izuku finished his email to his pen pal. He assumed his friend had an intelligence quirk of some kind because he was able to keep up with Izuku's intellectual conversation. I don't mean to doubt you, but do you really think that All Might can continue for much longer? Ever since his short disappearance 4 years ago, his public appearances have been getting shorter and shorter. Let's say he had a big, undisclosed fight that caused the Great America Quake. The timelines do match up after all, and All Might was in America at the time. He fought a villain and won, but received a life-altering injury. He disappeared for a month for surgery, then returned to do hero work. Adding on to my previous transformation type theory, All Might cannot stay transformed for more than 6 hours a day. Over the last 4.5 years, All Might's time doing hero work has steadily decreased. He is currently at 3.5 hours at most. The era of All Might is over, and Endeavor won't be happy when he gets number 1 by default. Deku. It took Rat 5 minutes to reply. An interesting theory. I suppose we shall not know until the hero does indeed retire. I grant you, his time does seem to be growing short, however it may be because of old age. He has been a hero for many years after all. In any case, I have enjoyed this evening's debate, Deku. On to another matter, the UA entrance exams will be beginning soon. Are you going to apply? It is the best high school in the country, perhaps they will be able to sate your hunger for knowledge. Rat. Izuku gave a huff in surprise. Of course his friend was Nezu, the smartest being in the world. Well, second smartest. I don't know how I never figured it out sooner. You slippery rat. Anyway, I've already finished my online school courses. I've been considering doing the college courses too, but there isn't really a point, is there? If I come to your school, which course would you recommend? I don't think any of them suit my specific talents. Gen Ed is probably the closest fit, or perhaps business. Deku. Izuku glanced at UA's welcome page as he waited for Nezu's reply. Heroics was out. He wasn't particularly strong, although he did keep himself fit. Support was also out. He wasn't interested in robotics or design. Business sounded okay, but it was a very narrow subject. General education was more of an all-rounder, but Izuku had already done his high school course. I see someone is on the welcome page. Go into support and scroll to the very bottom. I think you like what you see. Most people think of robotics and design, which are the two big ones. However, there is one subcategory most people overlook. We haven't had a student apply for that course since Sir Night-Eye, I believe. Rat. Izuku scrolled to the bottom of the support page, past robotics and design, then all of the safety lists nobody reads, facilities. Tucked away at the bottom was a single link. Analysis and strategy. Izuku smiled, clicking the link, which brought him to a single screen webpage. Greetings, analyst. Welcome to the analysis and strategy section of the support course. The course was taught by Nezu himself and had only ever been applied to and passed by notable strategic heroes and sidekicks like Sir Night-Eye and even the number 4 hero Edshot. Izuku applied to the analysis course. If it's a course taught by the second most intelligent being on the planet, then I'm all ears. If you don't mind, make my test harder if you would. I'd like at least to challenge my friend. I look forward to working with you. Deku. Izuku got up from his desk and stretched, grunting as his vertebrae popped and clicked. Izuku wandered from his room and headed downstairs, greeting his mother. Evening, Mum. What's for dinner? He asked. Inko smiled, placing the cutlery on the table. Katsuden. I wanted to discuss your school choices. Izuku's eyebrows rose. Oh, right, I just applied to take UA's analysis exam in 10 months. Inko's expression lit up. Really? That's wonderful, Izuku. I'm sure you'll pass just fine. I didn't know there was an analysis course at UA though. The last part was mumbled to herself. It's a subcategory of the support course. Analysis and strategy. Nezu himself teaches the course, and the last person to apply was Sir Night-Eye when he was at UA. Inko chuckled, setting the bowls on the table. You'll finally have some intellectual conversation then, Izuku. She teased. Izuku nodded, a smile ghosting his lips. Nezu closed his emails, clicking the applicants tab. He opened up the unused analysis tab and was greeted by a single name. Izuku Midoriya. Oh, of course, Izuku can be read as Deku. Clever. He muttered. Nezu opened up the analytics exam paper and tutted. This won't do at all. These questions are abysmal compared to the conversations we've had. I'll just spice things up a little. He chuckled. Present Mick and Snipe slowly edged away from the head of the table. What's gotten him so excited? Snipe asked. Izawa peeked out from his sleeping bag in the corner. A problem child, I'll bet. He said. Nezu laughed, looking over his laptop screen. A problem child. Nonsense. He will be most helpful in wreaking havoc on next year's hero course. He laughed darkly. Vlad King shuddered, moving a few seats away. A friend of mine will be joining the school next semester. He will be taking the analytics exam, and I'm just spicing it up a little, at his request. Izawa paled. Someone's taking that exam? And you're making that nightmare harder? He asked. I'm not making it harder. Not for him anyway. I'm making it not easy. Unfortunately, that's probably the best I can do, the board won't allow me to make it even enjoyable. Nezu sighed. Nezu got back to typing. He was going to make the already horrific entrance exam a nightmare for anyone other than both himself and Deku. Izuku browsed through the neighborhood security cameras one last time before bed. He was about to hit the power button when a flash of white caught his eye on camera E2. A little girl, dressed in rags, had collapsed and crawled beside a bike of boxes in an alleyway. On camera G7, a masked man was speed walking through alleyways, searching between boxes, bins and garbage bags for something. Izuku frowned, activating the small speaker on camera G7. "Excuse me sir, what might you be doing out here in the middle of the night?" The man's head shot up and he walked towards the camera. "I'm looking for my daughter, she ran off after a scolding." "Have you seen her?" The man's voice was young and smooth. Izuku placed him somewhere in his mid-20s. "Small girl, with white hair and a small horn on her head?" Izuku asked. The man nodded silently. Izuku clicked a few keys loudly, making sure the microphone was still on. "She was on cameras H9 to H2 3 minutes ago. She left the alleyways on 5th Street by the Happy Cat Corner shop. I don't know where she went from there," Izuku said calmly. The man considered Izuku's words a moment before nodding. "I know the place, thank you. If you happen to spot her, please call my number." The man held up a card to the camera. "Will do. I hope you find her, she seemed pretty stir-crazy. Good night." Izuku turned off the speaker and watched the man head back down the alleyways, emerging on 5th Street, far from the girl. The greenet raced from his room, grabbing his coat and sliding his shoes on. "I saw a little girl getting chased on the cameras, I'm going out to get her," he told his mother. Inko stood up from the table. "I'll keep an eye on the cameras for you." "What does the person chasing her look like?" she asked. "Tall, short hair, golden eyes. He's wearing a black surgical face mask and a green coat with purple fluff. I sent him on a wild goose chase on 5th Street and the girl is on camera E2. Izuku ran out the door and sprinted down the street, slowing when he came to the alleyway. "Hello?" he called softly. He heard a scared squeak and shuffling about. Izuku entered the alleyway and immediately spotted the girl pressing herself up against the box pile. Izuku raised his hands, showing her they were empty. "My name is Izuku, what's yours?" The girl stayed silent, keeping her crimson eyes open wide, staring at him. Izuku sat carefully on a box, keeping to his side of the alleyway. "I saw you on the camera, up there," he pointed at the camera. The girl's gaze quickly went to the camera, then snapped back to Izuku. "There was a man following you, with a black mask. Do you know him?" he asked. The girl started shaking, looking around nervously, pressing her back against the alley wall. "I sent him away, he didn't seem very trustworthy," he said. The girl relaxed at that, her gaze slightly calmer, focused on Izuku. "You aren't going to take me back?" she asked. Izuku shook his head. "Not if you don't want to. I can keep him away forever, if that's what you want." Izuku wasn't stupid. He could see the messy bandages wrapped around her limbs. He could see the way the girl flinched at every movement he made, or any noise that they heard. He knew suspicious eyes when he saw them, no matter the smooth manipulative voice. "Can I ask what your name is?" he asked her. The girl hesitated a second before answering. "Eri," she mumbled. Izuku smiled gently. "That's a pretty name. Do you want to come with me? I live a little way down the road, but it's not too far." Eri hesitated again, before nodding. Izuku got up slowly and took his coat off. Even in his hoodie, the air was brisk. He couldn't imagine how Eri felt. "Do you want my coat? It's pretty cold." Izuku forced himself to keep still, not letting his body shiver. Eri eyed the coat warily, then nodded, stepping forward slowly. Izuku wrapped the tiny girl in his coat and picked her up, turning out of the alleyway. "It's nice and warm, huh?" he asked. Eri nodded, clutching the dark green fabric in a vice grip. Izuku walked quickly, opening his door and stepping inside. He sighed in relief when the door was closed and locked. "Now the mean man can't get us anymore," he said, smiling at the silver-haired girl. Inko, having watched the cameras, stayed in her room for the time being. She didn't want to startle the girl while she got used to the new place and trusted Izuku to a degree. Izuku walked into the living room, setting Eri on the sofa and pulling the first aid kit out of the cupboard. Eri flinched when Izuku reached for her again, making the greenet stop. "I'm just making sure you're not hurt under the bandages. I don't want you to get an infection or anything. Can I take the bandages off?" he asked. Eri nodded, holding out her arm. Izuku smiled gently at her as he unwrapped the dirty bandages. He struggled to keep the smile there when he saw what was beneath. White hot rage bubbled just beneath his calm exterior. "I wonder if Nezu could help me legally kill a man. I'm sure we could figure it out together." Izuku's rage only grew when he took off the rest of the bandages. There were many scars covering Eri's arms and legs. Straight, surgical lines, cutting up and down her forearms and shins. There were also many small, round dots covering Eri's arms. Puncture wounds, from syringes. There were one or two more recent cuts and punctures, but they were surprisingly clean and had healed properly. Izuku pulled out a clean bundle of bandages from the first aid kit and wrapped them gently around Eri's limbs. "I don't think you really need these, but it's better to be safe than sorry. I'll be back in just a minute, okay Eri?" he asked. The silver-haired girl nodded, looking down at the white bands wrapping around her arms. Izuku knocked on his mother's door and walked inside, momentarily surprised at the collection of small dresses. Inko laughed quietly. My mother kept the nicer clothes from when I was younger and I never had the heart to throw them out. She explained. Izuku picked up a red and white check dress and a dark blue one. They were the only two that seemed Erie's size, apart from an appalling vomit-colored one that his mother quickly removed from the selection. Izuku returned to the living room, kneeling in front of the girl. Which one do you like? He asked her. Irie looked questioningly at him. Why are you asking me? She asked. Izuku smiled. Well, you're going to be the one wearing it. I thought I'd let you choose which one you liked. Irie looked between both of them before pointing shyly at the red one. Izuku awoke groggily. He hadn't stayed up so late for quite a while, always sticking to his strict sleep schedule to remain in perfect working condition. What could have possibly been so important as to impair his ability? The weight on Izuku's torso answered that question. Izuku reached to the side and turned his alarm off. He had no idea what time it was, but switched it off anyway, just in case. The greenette sighed, stroking the little girl's surprisingly clean hair softly. Irie held onto his shirt tighter, snuggling into his chest. Izuku looked up, scowling at his mother who was taking pictures from the doorway. Inko grinned mischievously, giving Izuku a thumbs up. Don't you dare share those with anyone. Evelyn is going to love this. Mum. Inko ignored her son's pleading eyes and tiptoed away, probably to ruin Izuku's reputation further. Or as further as you could, having already told every baby story there was. Irie chose that moment to stir, opening her crimson eyes and looking around the room. She looked up, straight at Izuku, her eyes wide for a moment before she remembered. Good morning, Irie. Did you sleep well? He asked. The girl nodded, rubbing her eyes. Do you want breakfast? Irie nodded again, her expression neutral. Her eyes seemed happier than yesterday, however, and far more trusting. Izuku sat up, taking the small girl with him, sitting on the edge of the bed with Irie in his lap. My mother is in the other room making food for us. Do you want to meet her? Irie looked up at him. Was she here yesterday? She asked quietly. Izuku nodded. She was, but she stayed away so that she didn't scare you. Do you want to go through? My mum is really nice. He said. Irie hesitated for a second, but nodded quickly. Izuku smiled, standing up and carrying the girl in his arms through to the dining table. Morning, Mum. He said. Good morning, Izuku. Good morning, Irie too. Inko smiled. Irie waved shyly, keeping herself close to Izuku. Izuku sat at the table, placing Irie down in the chair next to him. The trio had breakfast, and Izuku took Irie back to his room, settling the girl in his lap while he worked at the computer. Izuku opened an email to Nezu, then attached a recording feed of camera G7 from yesterday. I apologize, but this is important. Timestamp 22/16/2223. Do you know who this guy is? Context is in audio. I have the girl with me. She was in rags and had dirty bandages on her arms and legs. She has surgical scars going back years, and they only get fresher. I'd appreciate any information at all. We have already notified a detective friend and our local doctor. They can both be trusted. Deku. Izuku received an almost immediate reply. That is not someone to mess with lightly, my friend. His name is Overhaul, or Kai Chisaki. He became the leader of one of the 8 precepts of death a while ago. His quirk is called Overhaul. He can disassemble and reassemble things he touches at will. Please use extreme caution. I will have a few heroes alter their patrol routes to your neighborhood. Rat. Izuku sighed. Of course he knew where he lived. Irie looked up at Izuku questioningly. What are you doing? She asked. Izuku smiled. Talking to a friend. He's going to help us, he's very nice. Irie nodded. Okay, Izuku. Izuku left his desk and flopped onto his bed, holding Irie close to him. Do you want to do anything? I normally watch hero fights or analyze quirks, but I think that would bore you. Irie wiggled about, turning to look at Izuku. You know about quirks. Can you tell me about mine? Izuku smiled. Sure, Irie. Do you know what it can do? Irie looked down. Chisaki said mine is a curse. I made daddy disappear, and if I touch people it hurts them. Izuku frowned, humming thoughtfully. Well, if your daddy disappeared then it might be a warp quirk of some kind. Does it work on objects or just living things? He asked. Just living things. Chisaki only used it on mice or people. Izuku pulled a notebook off the shelf and began to write. And what happened to the mice and the people? He asked. Irie shrugged. I don't know. Chisaki said the mice disappeared or turned tiny. Adults heard and turned into children too. Izuku smiled. Then. You change people back into what they were in the past. You make living things younger. That's amazing. You could do so much with that. Izuku exclaimed. Irie looked at Izuku's notebook. Like what, Izuku? She asked. Izuku smiled. Well, if someone gets hurt 5 minutes ago and you use your quirk to make them 10 minutes younger, he suggested. Iri's eyes lit up. I can make people better, she exclaimed. Izuku chuckled. You're a healer. Like Recovery Girl, he said. Who's Recovery Girl, Izuku? Iri asked. Izuku went back to his laptop, settling Iri in his lap and opening his hero note files. R for Recovery Girl, he exclaimed, clicking the file. A 10-page Word document and a few photographs and videos of Recovery Girl using her quirk came up. Iri looked at the screen, watching the video. There was a young boy with a bruised knee that Recovery Girl kissed. There was a green glow and the bruise was gone. She's a hero. Her quirk lets her kiss people's injuries better. Literally. Izuku said. Iri looked between Izuku's smile and the screen. I'm like her? She asked. I'm not cursed. Izuku shook his head. Whatever Chisaki told you was a lie. Your quirk can help lots of people, you just need to train with it. All Might didn't punch without leveling cities in a day, he said. The little girl started to cry quietly, burying her face in Izuku's hoodie. Izuku stroked her silver hair softly, cuddling the quiet girl. It's okay, Iri, he murmured. They sat there in front of the computer for quite a while, looking up healing heroes or quirks similar to Iri's. The girl in question slowly became happier, excitedly pointing out all of the cool healing heroes she could remember. What's your quirk, Izuku? She asked innocently. Izuku smiled. I'm special, Iri. I don't have a quirk. I can't shoot lasers, or run fast, or heal people quickly. What I can do is take a certain girl away from the computer for her lunch. Izuku picked up the giggling girl, carrying her through to the dining table. Izuku waved goodbye to a tear-eyed Iri as he walked out of the door, his school bag over his shoulder. I'll be back before dinner. Don't worry, we can look for more healing heroes on the laptop later, he said. Iri just nodded, standing in the Midoriya household's doorway. Izuku waved, walking backwards all the way to the end of the street until he could no longer see the little girl. Izuku sighed, turning around and trudging to Eldera. Izuku hated school. He already knew the subject matter and he'd already passed the exams online. He knew he was going to get graded down, so why bother? Izuku managed to get to his classroom without issue, possibly because he was slightly later than normal and his bullies got tired of waiting. He was later than usual, of course, because of Iri. He didn't really want to leave her at home, but she couldn't come to school with him, so there hadn't been a choice. So he'd stayed with her as long as physically possible. Izuku opened the classroom door and quietly walked to his seat. Everyone else seemed to be absorbed in their own conversations, so he sat down without issue. Unless you count brushing thumbtacks away an issue. Izuku put his pencil case and a notebook on his desk. The notebook was the one with Iri's quirk notes inside, and Izuku wanted to do some theorizing on how it worked and possible applications. The teacher entered the room, and class started. Alright everybody, I've marked your homework, you all did well with the task at hand. Midoriya, I don't have yours, so I'll mark it as 0. Bakugo, top of the class, as usual, well done. Izuku didn't even sigh. He knew this was going to happen, it was an essay on analyzing a hero's quirk. There were 3 to choose from, Endeavor, Edshot and Maruko. The rest of the class probably googled their chosen hero's quirk. That was why Bakugo scored so high. Izuku had already analyzed the top 20 heroes' quirks in depth, it was just a matter of copying his notes onto the homework sheet. His marks had outshone the star pupils, so his homework had been lost by the quirkist staff. Bakugo had probably been marked up, and anyone else that did too well got marked down. Izuku just kept writing in his notebook. Could Iri reverse just a part of a person? Could she target only the damaged cells of a wound and just reverse that part of their body? Could she reverse people in different ways? Like turn a human into a monkey? Did it work on other living things like trees? If she could turn a human into a monkey, could she turn a person quirkless? Izuku froze. Turn a person quirkless. Surgical scars. Drawing blood. DNA. Chisaki was trying to create a trigger antithesis. Trigger was a drug that enhanced a person's quirk to potentially godly levels. Chisaki was creating a drug that permanently erased a person's quirk. Midoriya? The teacher asked. Izuku looked up from his notebook. 5.6 times 10 to the power of 15. He said, barely even glancing at the equation on the board. Izuku returned to his thoughts. It's possible he just wants a drug that could turn people into a monkey or into children. But he's the leader of one of the 8 precepts of death. Their whole thing is drug dealing. More specifically, quirk drug dealing. If Iri could reverse things she's reversed to before she reversed them, then the quirk erasing and giving back drug war would go on forever. Chisaki would make millions, even billions. School seemed to drag on for far longer than usual. Izuku was nervously tapping his feet, watching the clock slowly tick to 3 o'clock. The bell rang, and the teacher dismissed them. Izuku stuffed his things into his bag and raced for the door, dodging Bakugo's attempts to trip him. "Get back here, Deku, you worthless bastard," he yelled. Izuku ignored him, walking briskly out of the school gates and hurrying down the road. He could hear explosions behind him, but Izuku made it to his front door and entered without incident. "I'm Huam," he called, taking off his shoes and setting his bag on the floor. "Izuku," Eri exclaimed, running down the hallway. Izuku smiled, picking up the girl and holding her in his arms. "Hey Eri. How was your day?" he asked. Eri giggled. "It was fun. Inko made cookies and I helped her put stuff on top." As if remembering something, she wriggled in Izuku's arms, hopping down and running back through to the kitchen. Izuku chuckled, opening his bedroom door and sitting down at his desk. He opened his emails and began typing. Eri can reverse a living thing's existence to a previous state, like turning an adult into a child. I've theorized that she might be able to turn a person into a monkey, or make them quirkless. The Yakuza are quirk drug traffickers. I hope you understand the implications. Deku. Izuku was interrupted by the unicorn in question barging into his room holding a plate over her head. "I see the magical cookie unicorn has arrived. What flavors are on offer?" he asked, picking up Eri and settling her in his lap. Eri smiled. "Inko made gingerbread cookies and I put green on top. The beads and sprinkles sank into the icing though," she said. Izuku took a whole cookie and put it in his mouth, munching with a grin as Eri stared. "How did you do that?" she asked. Izuku almost choked by laughing. "I've got a big mouth, or so I'm told," he said. Eri set the cookies on his desk and they swiveled back to the computer screen. "Thank you Deku, this information is invaluable. If Yosaki is indeed planning what you and now I suspect, it could have disastrous consequences. Even if he just wanted to turn people into monkeys it would be bad. I'll pass this along to Sir Night-Eye, the hero leading the investigation. On another note, I've finished perfecting your exam paper. I hope you'll have fun with it, but unfortunately the board won't let me make it harder, even for you. Rat." Izuku closed his emails and opened up his Healing Hero folders. "I was thinking we should make you a folder too. Your quirk goes right beside these ones after all." Eri smiled, nibbling on a cookie. "We could design a hero costume too," Izuku exclaimed, pulling out his electronic drawing pad and pen. Eri stared wide-eyed at the screen as an older Eri was quickly sketched, with a tall horn and longer hair. "Do you know what colors you want?" Izuku asked, smiling at the girl. Eri didn't even need to think. "Green it is." Izuku chuckled. Izuku got up from his desk when he heard a knock at the front door. "Stay here, minute Eri, I think it's the detective." Eri nodded, sitting in the oversized chair and clicking the mouse on the hero folders. Izuku closed his door gently, then turned to the front door, looking through the peephole. It was the detective. "Tsukauchi, thanks for coming," Izuku said. Naomasa smiled at the greenette, stepping inside and removing his shoes. "Hey Midoriya. It seems I'm helping you with something for once, huh?" he laughed. Izuku nodded, a grin on his face. "I needed a detective I could trust, and you fit the bill, with how often we've worked together." Naomasa sighed. "I still don't know how you got into my case files." Izuku laughed. "You couldn't keep me out of the database if you tried. You're the officer always assigned the difficult quirk cases, so you're the only one that's needed my help." Naomasa sat down at the table, accepting the cup of tea from Inko. "So, what is it you wanted my help for?" he asked. Izuku walked back to his room. "I'll get her now," he said. The greenette knocked on his door, opening it gently. "Eri, the detective is here to talk to you," he said. Eri spun around in the chair, jumping off and running to Izuku, who picked her up. "Is he nice?" she asked. Izuku nodded. "He's a good friend of mine. He stops bad people and keeps them away from everyone else." Eri looked up at Izuku with her big scarlet eyes. "Can he keep Chisaki away?" she asked. Izuku nodded. "He can. It'll take a while, but the heroes and the police will have him soon," Izuku said. Izuku sat opposite Naomasa, with Eri on his lap. "This is Eri. I saved her from overhaul on Saturday. She was running away from him through the alleyways a few streets away. I saw her on the security cameras, with him not far behind. I directed him to 5th Street and then went out to get Eri." Naomasa scribbled every word into his notebook, his right eye twitching. "True. I assume that's why Nezu added me to the police side of the overhaul investigation?" he asked. Izuku sighed. "Of course he did." He laughed. Naomasa smiled. "Okay Eri. I'm going to ask you some questions. You don't have to answer if you're uncomfortable, but whatever you do say could help us a lot," he said gently. Eri nodded, holding Izuku's arms around her. Naomasa took that as a sign to begin. "Can you tell me where you were kept by overhaul?" Naomasa asked. Eri shook her head. "I only saw my room and some of the corridors. I ran away when the guard fell asleep." Naomasa scribbled into his notebook. True. Okay Eri, do you know what Overhaul was trying to do with your blood? He asked. Eri shook her head again. I don't know. He didn't talk to me much. Naomasa nodded. That's okay. Did he ever say anything to other people that you heard? Eri thought for a moment. Chisaki doesn't like quirks. He thinks they're a disease. He talks about curing people a lot. Izuku and Naomasa made eye contact, both nodding to the other. Did he ever succeed in curing a person? Naomasa asked. I don't know. I don't think so, because he was always in a bad mood after his experiments. Naomasa sighed. Okay. Thank you for answering so many questions Eri, you've really helped us. He smiled. Izuku followed Naomasa to the door. It's good that he hasn't succeeded yet, although if Overhaul still has some samples of Eri's blood. Izuku nodded. There's a slim chance, but he might be able to succeed, even with a small sample. I of course will do everything I can. Expect a full report on every known Yakuza member's quirks in your folder by Thursday. He said. Naomasa grinned. Thanks Midoriya. I'll see you some other time. Keep Eri safe. Izuku nodded to the detective, waving as he closed the door. What time is the doctor getting here? Izuku asked. Inko looked at the clock before answering. Dr. Tsubasa was busy, so Dr. Mikumo is coming instead. He should be here in an hour. Izuku nodded, picking Eri up and walking back to his room. Well then I guess we can work on your hero costume, then Eri? He asked. Eri nodded, her smile almost blinding the older sunshine. Izuku plopped himself down at his computer and plugged in his drawing pad. If you're going to be a hero then you'll need support equipment. What do you think you'll need? He asked. Eri thought for a moment. I need to get to hurt people quickly, so. Something to fly. She said. Izuku grinned. Alright then, what about hover boots and a grappling hook? The boots get you off the ground, and the hook pulls you where you need to go quickly. Eri nodded enthusiastically as Izuku added them to her hero costume. If you need to save your energy for really serious injuries, then you'll need a first aid kit too. Izuku suggested. Eri nodded, watching Izuku draw it onto the sketch. Izuku and Eri drew all over the white screen, adding bits and pieces anywhere they could. Izuku had added a green mask that covered the top half of her face, but left her eyes visible. There was a slight dip that let her horn stick out too. There was a knock at the front door that was answered by Inko. Dr. Mikumo, thank you for coming. She said. It's quite alright Mrs. Midoriya. Now, where is the girl? A voice asked. Izuku sat back from his laptop. Dr. Mikumo is here to make sure you're okay Eri. He's going to take off your bandages and he might need to take some blood for testing. I promise, he won't hurt you at all, I'll be there the whole time. Is that okay Eri? He asked quietly. Eri clenched Izuku's sleeve in her hand. You'll stay with me? She asked. Izuku wrapped his arms around the little girl. Of course. I'll always stay with you Eri. Izuku walked up to UA's gates amongst a group of greasy, disheveled teenagers in sooty overalls, each carrying some kind of invention or mechanical device. The greenhead entered the building and headed straight for the exam room. Izuku would be taking the general exam and then the specialized support exam. The other support course examinees needed to go through a show and tell of sorts, where they presented their invention to the head of the support class. That meant Izuku was alone, unsupervised, and in UA with his laptop. Izuku pulled it from his bag, powering it up and accessing UA's network. Accessing the Wi-Fi was child's play. Getting into UA's system was not. Izuku slowly typed, poking and prodding his way through the network's defenses, only finally getting through when the first few examinees entered the exam room. Izuku had access to everything, cameras, records, schedules, files and the defenses of the school. He had windows showing computers that were currently being used throughout the campus. They were even helpfully labeled. Shota Izawa was looking up information on Overhaul on the Hero network. Hisashi Yamada was trying to message Eraser. Nomuri Kayama was. He closed that window. Nezu Supreme Rat God was looking at the same screen he was. Nezu seemed to be fiddling with the firewall's coding. Izuku chuckled. Too late Rat, too late. I'm in now after all. He mumbled. Whatcha doing? The voice said right next to Izuku. Izuku jerked away, looking to his left. A sooty girl with pink dreadlocks was looking at his laptop over his shoulder. She had strange golden eyes with crosshairs for pupils. I'm coding, Izuku said. The girl narrowed her eyes at the screen. That's UA's logo at the top. Are you hacking UA? She yelled. Izuku sighed, then nodded. That's amazing. You must be really smart. I'm Mei Hatsum, future CEO of Hatsum Industries. She exclaimed. Izuku was saved by Powerloader entering the room. Alright everyone, to your seats. He said, marching to the front. Izuku put his laptop away and pulled a pencil out of his bag. Once you finish your exam you can head outside if you're doing the robotics practical exam. If you're taking the design exam then you'll need to go next door, where Midnight will supervise your exam. Ectoplasm will hand out the exam papers. One of Ectoplasm's many clones handed Izuku the general exam paper. Izuku put his pencil to paper and breezed through the questions with ease. He finished the general exam in half of the time provided, so he decided to write out another of his analysis theories on the back of his exam. This time it was about the quirk singularity theorem, which he knew Nezu had an interest in. The other examinees slowly began to leave the room, the grubby city kids going to invent something in a workshop, and the nicely dressed fashionable kids to work under Midnight's supervision. Izuku was the last left in the room, writing out his thoughts on the quirk singularity and human evolution impairment. Alright, your time's up, kid. Sorry, but you've got to hand in your exam now. Izuku looked up. Oh, has it been another hour already? I got caught up in the theorem. He muttered. Izuku handed his paper to Powerloader. I'm here for the analysis course, where am I taking my exam? Izuku asked. Powerloader's eyes widened. So you're the kid Nezu's been going on about for months. The one he juiced up that nightmare exam for. Izuku grinned devilishly. He said the board wouldn't let him make it fun, but at least it's not going to be as easy as usual. There was a clattering from the vents and Nezu hopped into the floor. Both Genii had matching grins. Deku. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Rat. Likewise. Powerloader shivered while Ectoplasm edged for the door. There are 5 questions on the paper. The first 2 are to make you analyze quirks. The third is to analyze a situation that was handled barely well in the past, how would you improve? The fourth is a piece on quirk singularity, but from my vantage point in the vents, you've already answered that question. The fifth is the ringer. You get to choose what you write about. It has to interest me and need some valid statistics to uphold the theory. You are permitted to use your laptop for question 5. Izuku laughed. That's it. No hidden meanings or questions I'm supposed to figure out. I don't need to hack a government base. The board really is holding you back, Nezu. Powerloader facepalmed. That's at least a week's worth of hero paperwork. How is that easy? Pro heroes struggle with half of what you're doing. He said. Izuku took the paper from Nezu. Did you at least give me a time limit? He asked. Nezu's grin widened. You have 3 hours. Izuku snorted. I'll do it in 2. And even then that's just writing time to flesh out question 5. I know for a fact you like this one. It's actually been my life's work to put this together. Nezu chuckled. I look forward to reading it. Have as much fun as you can with that child's play. Izuku worked through questions 1 and 2 in half an hour. He had been asked to analyze 2 quirks, Jet and Float, from a long-forgotten hero duo. Jet was simple, but Float was often considered quite the oddity in quirk history. The hero Nana could float for short times, which allowed her to jump from building to building alongside her partner, Gran Torino. Her quirk seemed to evolve partway through her career around the same time her mentor, Whiplash, died. She suddenly became able to fly and had also acquired super strength. Her mentor also had a dual quirk, Black Whip and super strength. Izuku frowned. Toshinori Yagi, Nana Shimura's protege, also developed super strength later than most. He was 15 when he finally got his quirk. Toshinori Yagi was more widely known by the name All Might. Izuku sped through question 3, something about a sludge villain in Kamui Woods. Boring. Question 4 was ignored, having already written about the quirk singularity theorem. Izuku pulled out his laptop when he got to question 5. He was itching to research Whiplash's mentor, as well as Toshinori Yagi, before he gained super strength the same as his mentor, and the same as his mentor's mentor. But Izuku resisted, pulling up his notes and statistics on intelligence in comparison to quirks, and how the quirkless could be considered modern-day Genii. In the past, the quirkless were all the same, but now that people have quirks, the few quirkless left are Genii in comparison to the quirked. Izuku wrote out his theorem, taking note of every detail, every test score, every self-test compared to the quirked and the quirkless alike. Izuku finished at 1 hour and 47 minutes. And that is how you finish an exam. Izuku said, leaning back in his chair. Nezu stepped forwards, glossing over the first 4 questions, reading the back of his first exam for the 4th answer. Full marks. 100%, but I was expecting that. I'm excited to see what you've got for my little addition at the end. Izuku smiled. It's the only good question on there, apart from QS. Question 4 was okay, but its wording was subpar. It could lead someone inexperienced away from the real question. Nezu's eyebrows rose the more he read. Are these statistics correct? He asked, not looking away from the theorem. Triple-checked while I was compiling evidence, then I checked twice more just for you as I was writing it here. Nezu was ecstatic. This is incredible. It makes perfect sense. It solves the entire question of why technological progression has nearly halted even with technology quirks. Emitter types. I'm interested by the mutations having the least busy brains. Where would you put me then? Nezu asked. Izuku hummed thoughtfully. I'm not sure. Quirked animals are cropping up more recently, although you've been the only one I could find in the past 20 years or so. There's nobody else to compare you to, however your quirk must be incredibly powerful to put your intelligence not only past quirked humans, but the quirkless too. There is one exception however. Nezu's gaze flicked between the theorem and Izuku. You're quirkless. Not only that, but you're a genius. Our loader, who'd read the theorem alongside Nezu, spoke up. So, the quirkless are actually genii compared to the rest of us? He asked. Nezu cackled. Not only that, but Deku is a genius amongst the genii. It's incredible. Born both without a quirk and with a more advanced mind than most. It's the perfect combination. The world will crumble at your feet or bow in submission to your intellect. Izuku opened the front door, placing his bag on the floor and kicking his shoes off. The greenette opened his bedroom door, placing his laptop on his desk and his pencil case on the shelf. Izuku wandered through to the living room, where Inko was teaching Eri to play Go Fish. Do you have any threes? Inko asked. Go Fish. Eri said. Ask her if she's got any sevens. Izuku whispered. Eri looked around at Izuku, beaming, then turned back to Inko. Do you have any sevens? She asked. Inko sighed, handing over a card. Eri cheered, finishing a pair. Izuku took 5 cards from the bottom of the pile and sat on the other side of the sofa. Got any threes, mum? He asked. Inko sighed again, handing over the 3 of hearts. Izuku chuckled to himself, finishing a pair. Inko looked over her cards. Do you have any tens, Izuku? Go Fish. Eri looked excitedly from her cards to Inko. Do you have any tens, Inko? She asked. They played card games for the rest of the evening. Eri won the first game of Go Fish and Izuku won the rest of the games they played by keeping count of who has what. Inko gave up after their 5th game and went out food shopping, muttering about clever clogs under her breath. Izuku and Eri soon went back to the laptop and they spent some time looking at rescue heroes like the space hero. 13. Recovery Girl was still the little girl's favorite though. Izuku. Eri mumbled. What's up, Eri? Izuku asked gently. The little girl yawned, snuggling into him. I'm tired. She said. Izuku laughed quietly, picking the girl up and setting her down on his bed. Alright. I'll tell mum that you went to bed. Izuku pulled the covers off of the mattress and let Eri lie down before putting the covers over her and tucking the girl in. Night, Eri. I'm going to do some work, then I'll go to bed too. Eri yawned again. Night, Izuku. Izuku stroked her hair until she fell asleep, then stood up and went back to his laptop. Your system's infrastructure is atrocious. It took me 5 minutes to get through. Impressive, but not foolproof. Want an upgrade? Deku. Izuku chuckled to himself quietly. I thought someone had gotten through, and I suspected it was you. If you wouldn't mind tweaking it, as I specialize in strategy, whilst Powerloader specializes in robotics. It would help us greatly if you were to give it your own touch. Rad. Izuku grinned, connecting to UA's system. He'd created a backdoor that let his laptop in only and implanted a virus into any other device that attempted it. It wasn't anything too serious, but it was almost unnoticeable and deleted files and software slowly over time. Izuku connected to a computer on campus and used that to access the firewall. It took about an hour, but now Izuku was probably the only person on the planet that knew how to get into UA's system. Izuku then went into Nezu's computer and added a few notes on a Word document for possible defense upgrades. The UA barrier was great, but what if someone had metal manipulation or something? Izuku suggested electrifying the barrier if any interference was detected. Izuku opened a new file on his laptop, deciding to start his hero course analysis. Nezu had tasked him with a full analysis of all 40 Hero Corps students' quirks by the sports festival. He was not allowed to access their files at UA or any previous schools. He had to do it entirely from scratch. Izuku already knew one person in the Hero course, so he just copy-pasted his most in-depth analysis of Explosion. Izuku glanced at the clock. 22:03. Yup, he was tired. Izuku changed into his All Might pajamas and clambered into bed, wrapping his arms around the tiny form of Eri. The silver-haired girl had been checked over by the doctor again recently. He had judged her to be in good health and didn't need the bandages anymore. Eri kept the bandages, mainly to hide the scars in short-sleeved clothing, so Izuku had gotten her a pair of sleeves that she could wear when she didn't have long sleeves. Naomasa and a kind lady from Child Services both believed it would be best if Eri stayed with Izuku. Both of them had been happy with that decision. Izuku's bedroom had become Izuku and Iri's room quite quickly, as whenever Izuku wasn't at school, Iri stayed by his side whenever she could. Iri was nervous around anyone new, but had warmed up to Inko quite quickly. Izuku was the only one that could pick her up or touch her unprompted, and Iri only grabbed onto Izuku whenever she wanted to cuddle. Izuku had of course returned in kind, showering the timid little girl in love, looking out for her almost 24/7. Most of his time was taken up by the unicorn, and he loved every second of it. The greenet let out a deep sigh, snuggling into the duvet, letting his mind turn itself off. Izuku fell asleep cradling his daughter in his arms. Izuku slid his laptop into his bag, grabbing a pair of notebooks and his pencil case, putting them into the bag alongside his lunch. The greenet did his tie in the mirror and headed through to the dining table where Iri and Inko were already having breakfast. "Do you have everything ready?" Inko asked as Izuku grabbed a piece of toast. Izuku nodded, hopping on one foot and slipping his shoes on, mouth blocked by the toast. Iri laughed at Izuku as he spun around the room, collecting up all of his bits and pieces from last night. Izuku crammed the last bit of toast into his mouth and swallowed. "I'm going to be late, the 8:30 train was cancelled because of yesterday's attack." Izuku raced into his room and grabbed his bag, then walked to the front door. "Do you have everything?" "Yes, Mum." "Do you have extra tissues?" "Yes, Mum, I'm going to be late." Izuku. Izuku turned to his mother, his eyebrows raised. "I'm really proud of you," she said, on the verge of tears. Izuku smiled. "Thanks, Mum." Iri reached up and hugged Izuku. "Have fun, Izuku," she said. Izuku hugged the girl back, planting a kiss on her forehead. "I will. I'll be back later, Iri." The greenet opened the door and left, waving as he ran to the station. Izuku walked briskly through UA's gates, heading through the corridors towards Nezu's office. Izuku found the door and opened it, entering the large room. Deku. Right on time. Aizawa is taking Class 1A out to the field for a quirk test instead of orientation. "You can go and watch if you like, just let him know you're in Class 1Z. Nezu said. Izuku set his bag down, taking his notebooks and a handful of pencils out. "Thanks, Rat. Have fun tormenting the rest of the school," Izuku said. Nezu chuckled. "Oh, I will. I've got an hour-long speech about fur grooming prepared." Both Genii cackled maniacally as they left the room, heading in opposite directions. Izuku walked down the corridor, stopping outside classroom 1A. There was a yellow caterpillar laying on the floor outside the door. "Who are you?" "You aren't one of my students," the caterpillar said, rolling around to face him. Izuku wore a Nezu-approved shit-eating grin. "I'm the sole member of Class 1Z. The caterpillar's eyes widened, then it stood up, unzipping down the middle. A disheveled man stepped out of the sleeping bag. "You're Nezu's personal student?" Aizawa asked. Izuku chuckled. "The very same." The hero sighed, turning back to the door. "Alright. I assume you'll be analyzing the students' quirks. Try and keep out of the way, and don't cause trouble. Please don't cause World War V. Aizawa opened the door. "Good morning. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Put your PE uniforms on and head outside. We're doing a quirk assessment test. The Class C student will be present to analyze each of your quirks. Don't talk to him unless he approaches you with questions." The 1A students immediately started asking questions, but Aizawa closed the door and walked down the corridor. "Come on then, Nezu 2. Izuku stood beside Aizawa, sketching each of the students that turned up, each on their own page. The most interesting looking ones were a girl that was all pink, a boy with a crow's head, and a muscular guy with 6 arms. Bakugo saw Izuku and immediately started smoking from the palms. He kept quiet though, mindful of his homeroom teacher. "Aren't we missing orientation?" a brown-haired girl asked. Izuku laughed. "You should be glad you're missing that. Arad has an hour-long speech on fur grooming prepared." He laughed. Most of 1A looked quite glad they were missing orientation. Aizawa pulled a ball out of his pocket. "Bakugo, you scored highest on the entrance exam. What was your furthest ball throw in middle school?" Bakugo stepped forwards. 68 meters. He said boastfully. Aizawa nodded. "Alright, now throw it with your quirk. Anything goes, just don't leave the circle." To Izuku's amusement, the blonde screeched "die" when he blasted the ball away. He got around 700 meters. Izuku spent the rest of the quirk assessment taking notes and creating theories on how the students' quirks worked. "Yaerozu, your turn." Aizawa held out a ball. The tall girl stepped forwards, taking the ball and stepping into the circle. She unbuttoned her top, revealing the pink sparkles glittering on her skin. A cannon then emerged from her stomach. Izuku frowned, looking between the girl and the cannon. Energy. But how much energy is required to create matter? Is she converting something? Ah. Izuku nodded to himself, jotting into his notebook. The girl's muscles had become much more defined after creating the cannon. She's converting lipids into different molecules to create objects. She would need an incredible understanding of how the objects themselves are made. All of the components and alloys. Just how many things has she memorized? He muttered. Izuku could feel Izawa eyeing him, so he pulled a hard sweet out of his pocket, unwrapping it and popping it into his mouth. There were several interesting quirks, like a sentient dark shadow and an invisible girl. Izuku didn't talk to the students of 1A, he just jotted anything he saw or thought of into his notebook. The only quirks he didn't see in action were a quiet boy and a kid with wavy purple hair and gucky eye bags. Izuku scowled at a short boy. Eraserhead, that's the 11th time in as many minutes that Mineta has tried to touch one of the girls. He muttered around the lemon-flavored sweet. Aizawa sighed. Thank you Nezu too, I'll deal with him shortly. You can remove any notes you have about him from your notebook. You won't be needing them after today. Izuku raised his eyebrows but rubbed out the simple sketch and few lines on the boy's quirk. He hadn't been very creative and had only used it once. Izuku bowed to the hero and left the field, not bothering with the final results. They wouldn't help him with his analysis. The green had headed up to Nezu's office and put his notebooks away, pulling out his laptop and placing it on his own desk, beside Nezu's much larger desk. Izuku opened UA's network and opened a window that showed the main auditorium's cameras, with audio of course. Now, the best way to get a good sheen like mine is by using this chemical. Izuku chuckled to himself, then opened another window with UA's firewalls, tweaking and adjusting the code in a few places. It's completely lethal to you humans, but for my fur. Izuku opened a third window and sent an email to his mother's computer that Eri was undoubtedly looking up rescue heroes on. Hi Eri. How has your morning been? Izuku. Izuku. I am having a good morning, thank you. Brahma Inko is typing for me. She read out your message too. We've been looking at rescue heroes. Backdraft is cool. What have you been doing? Eri. I've been watching the Hero Corps students to do my homework for Nezu. I'll be back just after lunch, school ends early today. I'll see you later. Izuku. Bye Izuku, have fun with your quirk analyzing. I love you. Eri. Izuku stared at the screen in shock until Nezu returned half an hour later. Class 1A had battle training with All Might today, so of course Izuku was going to be there. The greenette stood beside the blonde, waiting for Class 1A to finish changing into their hero costumes. The first few hero students walked into the observation room, their colorful costumes standing out amongst each other. A robot knight approached Izuku, moving its arms in wide swinging motions. You are the Class C student. It is a pleasure to meet you. I am Tenya Iida, of Class 1A. I was not aware that there was a Class C to begin with. Izuku nodded. I'm Izuku Midoriya, it's nice to meet you Iida. Their conversation had gained the attention of the creation user, Momoya Erozu. I too did not know of Class C until your arrival the other day. Which course do you belong to? She asked. Izuku smiled. I'm in a subcategory of the support course. I'm the only student in the whole school in a Z class, so it's just Class C not 1Z. It's not a very well-known course, analysis and strategy. Nezu himself teaches the course, and I've been assigned the task of analyzing Class 1A and 1B's quirks. If you wish to ask any questions we can do our best to answer them. Yerozu said. Izuku shook his head grinning. I'm not allowed. I have to correctly construct a description of how your quirks work, potential uses, strengths and weaknesses, and any improvements I think you'll need. I'm only here to see Shinsu's quirk in action, as well as Kota. I've already got a good idea of the class's quirks. He explained. Bakugo stomped into the room, spotting Izuku and storming over. What the hell are you doing here you useless piece of shit? He asked, smoke curling from his palms. Iida started swinging his axe arms around in indignation. Bakugo. Don't talk to Midoriya like that. It is extremely disrespectful. He is here to analyze our quirks and figure out how we could do better. You would do well to get along with people such as him. Iida ranted. Bakugo scoffed. I don't need some quirkless runt to tell me what to do. I already know I'm the best, so can it 4 eyes. Izuku glanced sideways at Bakugo, writing in his notebook. Anger. Management. Superiority. Complex. He muttered. The bomb exploded. What the hell did you just say Deku? Do you want to die? He screamed. They were interrupted by the rest of the class arriving. Aoyama and Hagakure were the last ones out, which was surprising, as Hagakure's hero costume was literally just a pair of gloves and shoes. Izuku popped a lemon sherbet into his mouth. True invisibility? Or is it light displacement? Can she control which wavelengths get redirected where through her body? Izuku scribbled furiously in his notebook, looking up at the big screen to see Eirozu and Aoyama fighting against Kota and Shiro. Kota was controlling an army of animals. Mainly pigeons and other avian species, but they still bothered the other team. So he can control animals. Is he controlling them mentally, or does he need to tell them their orders verbally? Izuku watched the screen. Verbally. The next match was Hagakure and Ejiro vs Todoroki and Shoji. Todoroki froze the entire building in one move and secured the objective. Impressive. He only uses his hot half to melt the created ice though. Shinsu and Uraraka vs Iida and Bakugo was interesting. Bakugo was defeated and captured by Shinsu with ease. He just stopped screaming at the purple-haired boy. Izuku's eyes narrowed. Mind control. Emotion dampener. I'll need to have a look at that on the cameras again later. Iida was taken out the same way. He just didn't move after talking to Shinsu. Izuku felt a smile creep across his face. That is a very cool quirk. An hour later, Izuku was sitting at his desk with the camera feed open and the audio from the comms playing. I don't know how you got into the hero course. You seem pretty weak to me. What the hell did you? That was the exact moment Bakugo stopped. Response triggered mind control. There wasn't even a flicker of emotion in Bakugo's eyes. Not even a finger twitched. How would you break out of the control? Could you even break out? I want to conduct some tests with Hitachi Shinsu and his mind control. I've finished class 1A and 1B's analysis. I might have missed one or two things, but I'm happy with what I've got. Izuku sent his typed up notes for both classes to Nezu's computer. The rat nodded, a grin on his face. I'm interested in the information you'll gain. Keep me updated, his quirk is incredibly powerful. I'd like to see how he improves. Nezu opened up the files, skimming through. Mr. Iida uses orange juice to fuel his engines, however I'm not sure how you would have found that out yourself, so you won't be marked down. Other than that, I think you've actually given me information on their abilities. Full marks, as usual Deku. Izuku only preened for a couple of seconds, his attention quickly taken by his laptop that had a notification pop up in the bottom right corner. Hey, you've got an interest in quirk-related stuff, right? I've heard whispers about bullets that turn quirks off. Want me to get you a sample, usual place Thursday. It won't cost you a thing. Guy like me gets nervous owing a favor to anybody. Gee. Izuku frowned. Quirk-canceling bullets could only mean one thing. A contact of mine has had word about some bullets that turn quirks off. They've offered to get me a sample, should I take it? He asked. Nezu regarded the screen, a frown of his own spreading across his animal features. If we can confirm that the bullets are a product of young Eri, then we will have plenty of evidence to put Overhaul behind bars. I'll ask Recovery Girl to prepare the equipment needed for a DNA test. Izuku nodded, typing out a reply to G. I'm intrigued. I'll gladly take a sample or two, the usual spot is fine. If you wouldn't mind, could you try and put me in contact with the main supplier? Izuku walked down Yue's corridor, Eri's hand in his, and a small gray case in his school bag. Why are we at your school, Izuku? Eri asked. Izuku smiled. The school nurse wants to see you for something. She's going to take a blood sample for testing. Izuku explained. Eri looked confused. But the other doctor said I was okay. Izuku nodded. Yes, he did. This is for something else though, Eri. It's to help stop Chisaki. Also, I think you'll want to meet the nurse anyway. Izuku opened the infirmary door. Deku, good morning. And I presume this is young Eri? Nezu asked. Eri nodded shyly. Izuku chuckled, pulling the small case from his bag, handing it to the rodent. Nezu opened the case, eyeing the contents. His snout wrinkled and distant. Yes, I can smell traces of blood. Most disgusting. Recovery Girl chose that moment to enter the infirmary. Eri froze, then tugged on Izuku's blazer. Izuku, it's Recovery Girl. She whispered, starry-eyed. Izuku laughed, turning to the heroine. Good morning, Recovery Girl. Thank you for helping us. He said politely. It's quite alright, Midoriya. Now, should we get started? She replied. Recovery Girl gingerly took the case from Nezu and set it on the counter. She then turned back to Eri. You're Eri, I believe. I'm Recovery Girl, the school nurse. She said kindly. Eri beamed. You're my favorite hero. I want to use my quirk to help people, like you do. She said excitedly. Recovery Girl chuckled, leading Eri to a chair, which the little girl quickly sat in, pulling her sleeve up. The heroine opened a drawer and took out a syringe, taking the little girl's arm and swabbing her skin, then drawing blood from the excited Eri. Recovery Girl then went into a smaller side room, taking Eri's blood sample and the bullet case with her. She returned a minute later. I'll have a result for you by the end of the day. If you two have work to do, then I can keep an eye on the girl if you like. I can teach her a few things for when she becomes a healing hero. Recovery Girl said, smiling at Eri. Eri nodded quickly, while Izuku considered a moment before smiling. Thank you, Recovery Girl, I'd appreciate that. I'm sure Eri will too. He laughed, watching the girl jump around in excitement. Izuku hugged Eri goodbye, then left alongside Nezu, leaving the girl alone with her idol. So, what's this I hear about the disappearances? Izuku asked. Nezu laughed. I should have known you would catch on to those. People with astronomically rare and powerful quirks have been going missing. For example, a man from Tokyo with a hyper-regeneration quirk disappeared a month ago. A few powerful strength enhancers went missing last week. Several shock displacement or resistance quirks have disappeared too. Normally I would chalk it up to quirk trafficking, but they've been taken from all over the place. Izuku finished. Nezu nodded. Indeed. And all the quirks taken grouped together nicely. It's like they're being collected. Izuku frowned. Any common findings around where these people were last seen? Strange heat signatures. Radio waves. Electronics glitching out. Izuku asked. Nezu shook his head, opening his office door. Nothing. Not a trace. I don't know whether I should be afraid or impressed. Izuku slumped into his chair with a huff. Neither. Be irritated because there's someone out there as smart as us who knows something we don't. Izuku finished his analysis on Kamui Wood's latest fight. He really should have herded the villain towards Mount Lady. Lacquered chain prison isn't effective against someone with a size change quirk, even a minor one. Nezu nodded. He could have built a cage large enough to contain the slightly larger form of the villain, whilst keeping the branches close enough together to prevent the villain's normal-sized form from slipping through. Izuku made a face. He'd already performed 5 other arrests that evening, he was too tired for that kind of strategy. He would be slow and sloppy if he tried that. Izuku and Nezu stood, leaving the office and walking down the corridor. Class 1A is heading to the USJ facility in 2 days. Do you think you'll need to be there in person? Nezu asked. Izuku shook his head. I'll keep a tab open with the camera feeds, but unless anything catches my eye I won't even need that. I'm happy with my notes on the class as they are. I want to concentrate more on Chisaki's case and the not quirk traffickers. Izuku opened Recovery Girl's door to find Eri wrapping a bandage around a dummy's arm quite professionally. Recovery Girl was sitting beside her, nodding her head. If you tie it in the first knot, then moving the arm at the elbow won't make the bandage slip off, she said. Eri nodded, tying a neat knot in the bandage and watching as Recovery Girl moved the dummy's joints. Izuku patted his daughter's head. Well done, Eri. You should show me and Mum what you learned later. He smiled. Eri nodded, smiling brightly at Izuku. Izuku turned to the school nurse. Is there a match? He asked. Recovery Girl nodded, her soft expression hardening in distaste. Nezu's calm features had become an angry frown. Izuku nodded in return, not trusting himself to talk. What did you find out, Miss Chio? Eri asked. Izuku spoke up for the heroine. She found something that's going to let us put Chisaki away forever and ever. Once we catch him, he will not be getting away, he said. Izuku's frown deepened as they left the infirmary. And if he somehow slips through, I'll kill him myself. Izuku looked up from his work as the alarms went off. Level 3 means someone broke into campus. He muttered, opening the cameras for the front gate. There was no front gate. The only remains were a pile of dust being trampled on by the media as they stormed inside. Izuku frowned. Nobody in the media would risk their job just for an interview. Especially with such a recognizable quirk. Something else was going on. Izuku rewound the cameras, stopping when the gate had reformed. He clicked play, letting the feed play at 0.25x speed. A blue-haired man in a black hoodie was standing right beside the gate. He didn't look like a member of the media, and the disintegration began right where he was standing. A villain. What for? Why let the media in? Look what I can do, just because I could. Izuku murmured. Izuku was typing away on his laptop when the USJ camera feed cut out. He frowned, clicking on the tab and expanding the window. The screen wasn't black, it was filled with static. That meant the cameras were being blocked, not turned off. The USJ cameras are being blocked, most likely with a technoquirk. It could be a villain attack or a logical ruse. I find both vastly irritating, he said. Nezu glanced momentarily at the screen before pressing a button next to the microphone on his desk, connecting to the heroes' earpieces. All heroes, please head out to the bus bays. Do not panic, we don't want to alarm the students. Prepare one of the buses for a trip to the USJ, we believe Class 1A is under attack. The rodent said. Nezu turned back to Izuku, pulling a pair of earpieces from a drawer, wearing the custom one himself. Keep trying to reach the cameras. Let the teachers know when you have a visual. I will head down to the bus bays to accompany the other teachers. Until I return, you are in charge of the school. Just let things progress as normal. He told the greenette. Izuku nodded, taking the small device and hooking it around the back of his ear. Nezu. What do you mean villain attack? I'm almost out of time. Is Shota okay? What about the students? Izuku blocked out the chattering heroes, instead returning his attention to his laptop. Alright. Techno quirk. If it's an electricity quirk, then the cameras have probably just been changed to transmit at a different frequency. The sensors connected to the alarms are not going off, so it could be that simple. Izuku quickly unwrapped an Imperial Mint, keeping his muttering mouth busy. They could have just destroyed the cameras themselves, but Nezu hides them pretty well, they wouldn't have all been destroyed simultaneously either. Something is impairing the signal itself. Or is it being redirected? Absorbed. Scrambled. Only one way to find out. Izuku typed quickly at his laptop, first trying to find an askew signal. Then he tried switching between frequencies, looking for the camera feeds. Deku, have you got anything yet? Nezu asked. You've got the boy working on this? Someone asked. I'm switching through frequencies, trying to find the camera feeds. If the signal is just being absorbed by a techno quirk, then I've got no chance of finding it though. Izuku said. It took Izuku another minute to find the correct frequency. The cameras showed Izuku hell. Aizawa was in the main courtyard, beating down several villains. Most of the students were scattered throughout the USJ, battling against villains within the various zones. Aizawa is fighting the main group in the center courtyard. 13 is down. Half of the students are scattered throughout the various zones, fighting villains with quirks suited to the environment. The cameras were changed by 18 clicks, try around there to connect to Aizawa's comms. Izuku flicked through a couple of cameras. These guys seem to just be a group of thugs. There are only 2 or 3 actually dangerous people. The leader looks like he's covered in hands, while his second in command is a misty portal man. He's the one that took down 13, judging on how the back of her suit is destroyed. He probably turned her own quirk against her. Izuku frowned. One of the students is missing. Tenya Iida, I think, he's not anywhere in the building. Nezu hummed through the microphone. He has a speed quirk. Is it possible that he got out and is running for help? Izuku nodded, then realized they couldn't see him. Yes, the main doors are open. Hey, look at that, I got audio. 23. 22. 21. You're slowing down, Eraserhead. It was hard to tell, what with you jumping around all the time, but whenever you perform an action, your hair floats. Aizawa's elbow began to fall apart where the villain was touching him. Fortunately, the hero kicked the villain and jumped away. The hand villain gestured, and the massive bird villain turned towards Aizawa. Oh, and by the way, I'm not the final boss. Izuku could only watch as the behemoth crushed Aizawa's arms like twigs. The hand villain nearly danced with glee. Behold, the bioengineered anti-symbol of peace, Nomu. Aizawa is down. Izuku said into the earpiece. That's it, I'm going. Even if I have to kill myself, I'm saving those children. A new, yet familiar voice said. Fear not, I shall get there within minutes. All Might said. Why don't we crush some of the symbol of peace's pride? Izuku glanced back at the screen in time to see the hand villain sprint towards Asui and Shinsu, who had just escaped the flood zone. Aizawa was down, 13 was down, All Might was still minutes away. Asui would be useless against this villain, she didn't have any ranged attacks. Shinsu could work, but the warp villain would quickly snap Hansi out of the brainwashing. Then Hansi would get mad and set Nomu on them, and they wouldn't stand a chance. Hansi reached out for Asui's face, just as Izuku turned on the USJ's speaker system. Hello villains. What can I do for you today? Would you like some intellectual conversation? A battle of wills. Ideals. You could hear the scowl in Izuku's voice. Or how about a beatdown? The hand villain stopped reaching out for Asui's face, letting the frog girl and brainwashing boy get away. Who's this? Some NPC? Or a mini-boss trying to get in my way? The speakers spoke up again. NPC? Mini-boss? You think this is some kind of game? Alright then handfucker, let's play. A section of the center fountain slid apart, revealing a dark opening. A loud clattering and banging echoed from within the fountain, which the voice was happy to explain. Nezu really likes his toys, and I just found the best ones. An army of robots erupted from the opening, wielding non-lethal guns and weapons of all kinds. Izuku watched the handfucker back away from the fountain as half of the army of robots charged at him. Izuku split up the other half into several smaller groups and sent them to sweep through each of the disaster zones. Protect any students and faculty in the area. Beat down anyone else. The robots were much tougher variants of the ones from the entrance exam. They were better equipped too, able to both shoot, punch and jump at enemies. They were able to take a few hits before breaking down, even from some minor strength enhancers. Once all the villains in the zone were dealt with, the robots were programmed to escort any students or faculty to the emergency exits and around to the front where the emergency services would arrive. Izuku watched a hand villain retreat through portal after portal, playing keep away with the robots. The Nomu had become still, without orders to guide it, so a robot was able to rescue Aizawa and take him upstairs and out to the entrance. His arms were broken, but other than that he was fine. I set the USJ security bots on the villains. Aizawa, 13 and the majority of the students have been escorted outside. Bakugo refuses to cooperate, and Kirishima refuses to leave his side. Todoroki will not follow directions either. They're going to get themselves killed. He said into the earpiece. Aizawa sighed. But you Nezu too. I should have known you were behind the robots. Tell them they're expelled if they don't evacuate. He replied. Izuku opened the speaker on one of the robots near Bakugo and Kirishima. Aizawa says you're expelled if you don't evacuate right now. Everyone else has escaped, it's literally just you two and Todoroki left because you refused to cooperate. He said. Bakugo turned on the robot. Is that you quirkless fucker? Are you behind this? I don't need your help, piss off. Kirishima grabbed Bakugo's arm. Dude, he said Aizawa would expel us if we don't follow orders. Not quite Kirishima, but close enough. Bakugo growled, but followed the robot escort to one of the emergency exits. Izuku switched to a robot walking with Todoroki. Todoroki, literally everyone is outside. The robots are dealing with the villains, and All Might is like, 20 seconds out. Follow directions, or Aizawa says you're expelled. The IC team glared at the robot, then huffed. Fine. Lead me to the exit then Class C. Todoroki finally reached safety just as All Might burst through the doorway. Villains, I am here. I will not let you get away with attacking my students. The number one hero raced down the stairs and smacked any villains the robots hadn't knocked out yet. Izuku set the robots in a line behind All Might, wielding their weapons threateningly. The leader had green eyes and was being controlled by Izuku. The robot leveled its submachine gun at Handfucker, who looked like a deer caught in headlights. Nomu, kill All Might. Ow. The Nomu charged the hero, just as Izuku fired a blank into the villain's face. All Might battled the Nomu, while Izuku charged Handfucker and Portal Boy with the robots. Shigaraki, I believe we should retreat. Nomu can deal with All Might, its quirks are more than enough to take him on. We however, must make an escape. Portal Boy said. Handfucker didn't like that. What if Nomu loses and we can't get him back for Sensei? Shig. Sorry, Handfucker dodged a metal fist, disintegrating the robot's arm. Even with his multiple quirks, he can't do anything without orders Kurogiri. Izuku frowned. Multiple quirks. Like the old Bujiman story, what was it? All for dumb. Some for one. Handfucker really didn't like that. His name is All for One, you cheater. He screeched, disintegrating another robot. Cheater. I may be a Deku, but I'm no cheater. All Might jettisoned Nomu into space at that precise moment, making both villains pale and escape into a portal. The rest of the teachers arrived on scene, but Izuku wasn't paying attention. All for One, the old wives' tale quirk stealer has a vendetta against All Might. Why not kill All Might himself? Why get Handfucker and Nomu to do it? What was the point of this entire attack? Izuku rubbed his eyes. Someone with as many quirks as All for One probably has would be able to at least injure All Might. The greenet's eyes snapped open. Oh, of course. He was the one that caused the Great American Quake alongside All Might. But why attack now? Was he injured as badly as All Might was? Maybe even worse, if he's only moving his pawns now. Then this was a test to see if All Might had weakened as much as he seems. Izuku muttered. Ah, and he's the not quirk trafficker that was plucking people with uber powerful quirks off the street to power himself up and create his Nomu. Izuku sighed, putting the earpiece away in Nezu's drawer and turning his laptop off. I'll need to talk to Nezu about this. Izuku slumped through the front door, tiredly kicking his shoes off. I'm home. He called. Eri immediately came bounding through the hallway, with far more energy than Izuku. Izuku. Did you have fun at school today? She asked. Izuku smiled, picking the girl up and hugging her. Yeah, it was fine. I'm really tired though. He sighed. Grandma Inko said she made Katsudon because of the news. Did something happen? Eri asked. Izuku shook his head. Don't worry, everyone's fine. Some of Class 1A got hurt, but Recovery Girl fixed them all up in no time. He said. Eri smiled upon hearing about her mentor. Did she need to use her quirk? She asked. Izuku carried Eri to the table, setting her down in her chair, then slumping into his own. No, they were too tired for that. It was only small cuts and bruises. Recovery Girl just patched them up and sent them home. Inko came through to the table and set down 3 bowls, sitting down in her chair. So, everybody was okay? Inko asked. Izuku nodded, munching on his food. What did you do? She asked. I had the camera feed open and saw that it was blocked by something. I alerted Nezu, and the teachers all sped off to the USJ. I got the cameras working and distracted the villains with Nezu's robot army. He said. Inko sighed. I'm just glad you weren't in there with them. What's UA doing currently? She asked. Izuku smiled at that. I've been hired as UA's computer technician. I'll be spicing up their firewalls and altering how a few things work to prevent this from happening again. For example, beacons in each facility that send out a constant signal. If the signal is blocked or messed with, Nezu or I get an alert. Cameras will now be set to several frequencies, so it's far more difficult to block them. He explained. The family finished their meal and Izuku retreated into his room, changing into his pajamas and clonking out on his bed. Izuku didn't dream often, but when he did, shit got wild. There was a faceless man as buff as All Might pulling off people's hands and attaching them to his body. And fucker was there, playing tug of war with All Might in his skinny form. The UA staff were bowing down to Nezu, who was sitting atop a throne of exam papers. There was a second Izuku who was riding Partalboy like a horse as they galloped through swirling portals that resembled Izawa's capture gear. All of this was going on in the palm of Erie's hand as she looked down at the chaos, smiling adorably. Like I said, shit got wild. Izuku opened his eyes, even more tired than before he went to sleep. He wrapped his arms around the tiny girl laying on top of him and sighed. The sports festival is coming up soon. I don't think I'll participate. I've been doing muscle training and picked up some basic self-defense, but there's little point in me attending. I can work on the stain case in the meantime. Nezu had been approached by several hero agencies concerning the hero killer's rampage. They wanted an analyst's opinion on his quirk, strategy and movements. The Rad had handed the case files over to Izuku. You can think of this as the prelude to your internship after the sports festival. The agencies in Hosu believe Stain will attack 2 or 3 more heroes before moving elsewhere. I'll be sending you to work with the Iditan agency to do some reconnaissance on the area. Maps and reports don't quite capture the feeling you get from that one alleyway or that abandoned building everyone overlooked. He'd said. Stain's ideals are warped. He has good intentions and an excellent image of the future, but he's just a murderer now. Only other murderers will support him unless he kills a hero that wronged you specifically. There are normally 2 or 3 weeks between attacks as he plans every little detail. That gives us time ourselves. Izuku glanced across at his alarm clock. 6:42. Too early to get up, but Izuku wouldn't be going back to sleep. The greenet reached down and unplugged his phone, bringing up the hero news. Stain hadn't struck yet, which was good. The Manual Hero Agency was joining the investigation though. Maybe they had found some new information. Irie yawned, snuggling into Izuku's shoulder. The greenet smiled, stroking her hair. Izuku pulled up his contacts, scrolling down to Rad. I won't be competing in the sports festival. I'd like to go to the Iditan internship a little earlier than planned. The sooner Stain is stopped the better. I'm sure Ingenium won't mind the help a little earlier than planned. Izuku received a reply faster than he thought he would. I'm sure we can figure something out. The Manual Hero Agency might have some new information. They were brought into the investigation this morning. Ingenium won't mind our swiftness, he is the turbo hero. Izuku snorted, putting his phone away. Irie yawned again, opening her tired eyes. Good morning, Irie. Izuku said quietly. The little girl smiled. Good morning, Daddy. She said. Izuku's heart almost exploded, but his soft smile just widened. I don't have school today, so we can do anything you want all day. He told her. Irie's eyes lit up. Really? Can I learn about more healing hero stuff? She asked. Izuku nodded, sitting up. Yup. I don't know as much as Recovery Girl, but I'm sure I'll be able to help somehow. He said. Izuku opened the door of the Iditan agency with a smile on his face. Ah, Midoriya, right. An armored hero asked. You must be Ingenium. Izuku said gleefully. The man popped his helmet off, chuckling to himself. He looked just like his younger brother. Yep. Welcome to the Iditan agency. Follow me, I'll take you to your workspace. Izuku followed the energetic completely opposite to his brother, hero through a few hallways and up a flight of stairs until they reached a door with intern on it. This is where you'll be working. There's a computer with access to the hero network and a few other bits and pieces. You've got a laptop on you though, so I don't think you'll be needing them. Now, next door is Natsuki Tsukasa. He's working on a few other cases, but he's got the stain files for you if you need them. He's been on the case since the start, but there's been so little information he's started other cases in the meantime. The cafeteria is downstairs, and the 4th floor is the living quarters for any employees, interns or heroes wanting to stay the night. If you get lost or don't know where something is, feel free to ask anyone. Ingenium said. Izuku thanked the hero, watching as he speed walked back down the hallway. The greenet opened the door, stepping into his office. So in conclusion, I think Stain will attack sometime in the next week in this side of Hosu. He's attacked in the south and the west already, so either Ingenium, Native or Manual are his next targets in the north and eastern regions respectively. Izuku said. Any ideas on his quirk? Ingenium asked. Izuku nodded, pressing a button to advance his presentation. All of Stain's victims have the same injuries. A single slice or shallow stab, just enough to draw blood, then the killing blow. There are never more than 2 injuries. Stain is efficient and clever, so there must be a reason for it. I believe Stain's quirk paralyzes his victims. It could be activated any number of ways, but I believe blood ingestion is the most likely. Izuku continued. One of the sidekicks spoke up. Then. How do we beat it? What's his weakness? Izuku shrugged. I don't know. It could have an indefinite time limit or only a few seconds, just enough for him to deal the final blow. There's no way to know for certain. Ingenium stood up, smiling at Izuku. Well, thank you Midoriya, it's only been a day, and yet you've given us some good leads already. Now, I understand that you wanted to go on patrol. Izuku nodded, watching the sidekicks and visiting heroes leave the conference room. I did. It's getting quite late already though, so I'll join you on Friday's patrol. You should take a sidekick with you, just in case. Izuku said. Ingenium nodded. Alright. Thanks again Midoriya. I'll see you in the morning. Izuku followed the turbo hero into the corridor, where they parted ways. The sports festival is on Friday. I wonder how 1A will do. I'll need to analyze how they've progressed and adjust their training regimes. Izuku thought to himself, entering the room provided to him. Izuku woke up without the usual comfortable weight on his chest. He got ready groggily, with no excitable 6-year-old running around him, shouting about how much more amazing today would be than the day before, when she'd said the same thing then. One day Izuku. You couldn't go one day. He muttered. Izuku entered his office and typed the password into his laptop. How was the first day at Ingenium's agency daddy? Are you having fun? Is he as cool as you thought he would be? What are you doing over there? Recovery girl has been teaching me more stuff. Sometimes it sounds gross and icky, but she says it's important to know, so I'm doing my best. I can't wait until you come back. Eerie. Izuku's smile widened as he read through the email. He quickly typed out a reply. Yesterday was amazing. Ingenium is so cool, and it's a lot of fun working with him. I can't tell you what we're doing, it's a really big secret. But, we are doing our best to catch the bad guy. Well done with your hero training with Recovery Girl. You'll have to show me when I get home. I can't wait until I get back either. Izuku. Friday arrived, and Izuku woke up earlier so that he could catch the sports festival's first event at 10 o'clock, once he'd finished his current line of investigation. Izuku sat down in front of the television, with his notebooks open on the low table in front of him. The first event, an obstacle course, passed quickly. Todoroki had come in first, and Bakugo in second. The blonde didn't seem happy until the second event was announced, and Todoroki was given a massive target on his back. Ingenium knocked on Izuku's door when the cavalry battle was reaching its conclusion. Midoriya. It's time for patrol. He called. Izuku glanced at the clock, turning his laptop off. Thanks. I'll be right out. Izuku replied. The greenette grabbed a few empty notebooks and a handful of pens, putting them in his backpack. He also grabbed a pair of knives Nezu had given him. He wasn't good with knives, but they were better than nothing. Izuku opened the door and followed the hero down to the lobby. We're going around the first 3 blocks, then through the quieter part of town. If anything happens, stay back. We don't need our top analyst out of commission. The hero said lightly. Izuku nodded. I'm just planning on keeping an eye out for potential Stain attack alleyways, or maybe even his hideout. Izuku said. Ingenium glanced momentarily at his phone. Looks like Tenya made it to the tournament. He said cheerfully. The hero put his helmet on and stepped outside, walking down the pavement. Izuku followed close behind, keeping pace with the long-legged man. About half an hour and something seemed to catch Ingenium's eye, sending him sprinting into an alleyway. Hero killer Stain. Ingenium was down. It had happened in an instant. Stain lashed out with his blade, barely scratching the turbo hero. But Izuku knew that was enough. The hero killer raised the blade to his face and licked it with his long tongue. Ingenium had collapsed in the same instant. Turbo hero Ingenium. You are a fake hero. The killer said. Izuku pressed his distress beacon, making Ingenium's phone buzz. Stain looked down at the device for a moment, then back up in Izuku's direction. Who is there? Another fake? Stain asked carefully. Izuku steeled his nerves, stepping round the corner and into the alleyway. The hero killer's eyes widened slightly. A child. Beggin' boy, I have no qualms with you. He said dismissively. Izuku tossed a knife at the killer, making him step away from Ingenium in surprise. Don't worry Ingenium, the other heroes will be here soon. He said, stepping over the downed hero. The hero killer frowned. I do not kill children. But if you persist with getting in my way, I will be forced to take drastic measures. Even if you are just a hero in training. He said. Izuku smiled politely. I'm not a hero in training. I'm just an analyst with a knife collection. Easy mistake to make, what with the knife throwing and such. He explained. The killer seemed to relax slightly. Then you stand even less of a chance trying to protect this fake. Step away from him boy. Izuku's mind went a mile a minute, trying to think of a way to stall. Fake hero? He blurted. What makes you think Ingenium is a fake hero? Were the other heroes you killed also fake? Stain seemed to grin. It looked horrifying. Heroes in today's society are all about money, fame and power. I worked to bring back the good age of heroes, when a hero's only goal was to save people. The only one I deem worthy of the title of hero is All Might. Stain said. Izuku cleared his throat quietly. All Might is an incredibly high bar to set. He's the greatest hero of all time for a reason. Everyone else can only do their best to be half as great as him. Izuku said. Stain laughed. You understand. The only true hero is All Might. The rest of these fools playing pretend are fakes. Imposters. He ranted. All Might fanboy. Gotcha. But even All Might can't save everyone. If all the fake heroes are purged, who will save the people in the burning building while All Might is stopping a bank heist in the next city over? Who will there be to compare All Might to prove he really is the greatest? Izuku asked. Stain seemed to hesitate. There may be others, true heroes, who are out there. I have yet to meet one however. Izuku nodded. Well, what about underground heroes? Izuku asked. Stain thought for a moment. I see. Underground heroes keep away from the limelight. They use their weaker quirks in the darkness to stop villains of the night. Yes, thank you boy. Underground heroes are worthy, just like All Might. Izuku prodded Ingenium with his foot, drawing the killer's attention to the hero. What about Ingenium here? What makes him a fake? Izuku asked carefully. Stain scoffed. Ingenium. The Ida family, going back generations, have been heroes. They bask in the limelight, taking money and attention for themselves for as long as they can remember. They parade around in the daylight, showing off to civilians. Izuku nodded. I see your point. However, if you were a civilian, fearful every moment of every day that a villain attack would happen around you, or you'd be taken hostage, or hurt by some crazy mass murderer. If you saw a hero in shining silver armor, walking down the street, showing you just how powerful he is, wouldn't you feel just a little safer? Izuku asked. I suppose. Stain grumbled. The family have been heroes for generations because they all look up to the previous generation. Ingenium's little brother goes to UA. He wants to be a hero just like his older brother, who is able to help people, no matter what. Wouldn't you be inspired if your older brother, sister, mother or father were heroes? He asked. Stain had put his sword away. Well, if you put it like that, he muttered. As for all the money the Ida family makes, about 80% of what Ingenium makes goes to charities in the area. The rest he himself uses to build apartments for the homeless and maybe a cup noodle for his lunch. Ingenium flinched. Izuku prodded him with his foot again. Yeah, I saw you at lunch yesterday. You're a hero, you need to eat properly. He said, prodding the hero again. Stain sighed, now completely relaxed in the duo's presence. Alright boy, you've made your point. I apologize Ingenium, I'll be sure to research more thoroughly next time. He said. Sorry Stain, but there's not gonna be a next time. A voice said. The hero killer looked up, reaching back to draw his sword. He was too late. Manuel dropkicked the hero killer, binding him with water. Several sidekicks flooded the alleyway and surrounding rooftops. Manuel grinned at Izuku. Good job Midoriya. Thanks for keeping this oaf alive. He said, prodding Ingenium with his foot. Can you stop doing that? He demanded. Izuku returned to UA once Stain had been captured. My, you really work fast. Nezu said. Izuku laughed. I just got lucky he was ready to talk. He replied. Class 1A had their internships the week after the sports festival. They'd all impressed Izuku with how much they'd improved, but he knew they could do better. Should I give them the polished analysis before the final exams or wait until the training camp? He asked. Nezu thought for a moment. Training camp. Let them take the exams under their own training, then you can put them through the ringer at the training camp. Make sure to take notes of their exams though. The rodent said. Izuku snorted. Of course. I'm not going to just give up halfway through. He said. Class 1A took their end of term exams. Izuku came up with the idea to put them 2 versus 1 against a teacher. Most of the students passed, but a few definitely needed training separate from just using their quirks. Kirishima and Sato needed problem-solving skills, Mina and Kaminari needed analysis, and Siro just needed to work on situational awareness. I assume you'll be joining Class 1A and 1B on their trip to the summer training camp? Nezu asked. Izuku nodded. It'll be best if I'm there to monitor their progress. I can also help them if they get stuck trying to improve. Nezu grinned. In the meantime, do you want to work on the overhaul case? A few incidents have come up which need looking into. The rat said. Izuku wore a similar smile. Nothing would make me happier. Izuku sat at the front of the bus, alongside Izawa. Don't drag me into your logical ruse please. Izuku muttered, scribbling in his notebook with his right hand and typing on his laptop with his left. The hero just gave a grunt of agreement. "What you working on, Midoriya?" Mina asked. "A case involving the Yakuza boss," he replied curtly. "Like, a proper case. With the police and heroes working on it and everything?" Kaminari asked. Izuku looked back over his seat. "Yes. I'm the one leading the investigation," he said. Izuku turned back to his work, copying down the statements given by the criminals who'd encountered Overhaul. Apparently he didn't do anything to them. Izuku called bullshit on that. All the criminals remembered was blacking out for a fraction of a second. Overhaul's quirk let him disassemble and reassemble things at will when he touched them. Basically, he could kill and revive people as much as he wanted. So Izuku believed Chisaki had obliterated and revived the criminals the police had apprehended. The bus drove for a few hours, leaving the city and going along winding roads through forests and hills. It stopped on a cliffside, overlooking a vast swath of forestry. Izuku had compiled every little incident or snippet of information that could be used against Overhaul into one large file. If he was going to take the monster down, he would need to take him down for as long as possible. "Alright, this is the rest stop," Aizawa said, stepping off the bus. Class 1A quickly followed, to Izuku's amusement. "You're good at this, Eraser. They don't suspect a thing." Izuku put his laptop away and got off the bus just as 1A were thrown off the cliffside by Pixie Bob. "Oh, looks like we missed one," she said enthusiastically, turning to Izuku. "He's not part of the class. He's with me," Aizawa said quickly. Pixie Bob looked disappointed, while Mandalay was confused. "I thought it was just 1A, 1B2 teachers and us," she asked. Izuku nodded. "I'm the sole member of Class 1Z. I'm here to analyze the students and help them improve in any ways I find lacking," he explained. Izuku and Aizawa took the bus down the mountain to a small campsite inside the vast woodlands. The greenette put his belongings in the cabin provided for him, setting up his laptop and getting to work. He had to polish off a few training regimes and finish up his report on Overhaul's activities, then send it to Night Eye. When the class eventually reached camp, it was time for dinner, which was provided by the wild pussycats. The students were then sent to bed to prepare for the next day's hell. Izuku stood outside the cabins and handed each of the students a sheaf of papers as they emerged in the morning. The training regimes were passed on with a smirk and good luck. While the Hero Corps students were training, Izuku was running laps around the compound or lifting weights. He wanted to be combat ready, but not to the same level as the heroes. Class 1B arrived after about an hour into training, so Izuku handed over their training regimes and went back to his exercises. A few were skeptical, but Aizawa and Vlad King got them onto the training plans. The hero students did that training all day, but Izuku stopped his around lunchtime to go back to his analysis work. On the third day of training, the heroes gave the students a break in the evening. The wild pussycats had set up a game in the woods. Class 1A versus Class 1B. Whichever class scares the other most wins. Class 1B, go and set up any surprises you want along the track, Pixie Bob said enthusiastically. Some members of Class 1A and Monoma were dragged away for remedial classes with Aizawa and Vlad King. Which meant Izuku was forced to participate. "I'd very much rather working on the Overhaul case," he muttered. He was paired with Jiru, which wasn't too bad. At least he wasn't with Bakugo. "Alright, Bakugo and Todoroki, start." A few minutes passed and Izuku and Jiru were called. "Midoriya, Jiru, go." The forest was burning. Bright blue flames licked at the sky as Izuku and Jiru ran through the trees. They tried to go back, but a swirling yellow gas had blocked the path through the trees. They decided to run on and ignore any villains they passed by. They quickly caught up to Bakugo and Todoroki, who had been stopped by a man in a straitjacket with long blade-like teeth. Moonfish. Quirk. Enamel blade. Weaknesses. Tempered fluctuations. Sudden jarring force to the tooth blades. Izuku muttered to himself. The area was covered in ice, but Moonfish seemed to have adapted to the freezing cold quickly. "Todoroki, light him up. If the temperature changes quickly he'll be down for the count," Izuku yelled. "But the trees," he said. "Don't worry about the forest. It's already on fire from another villain. Just do it," Izuku called. The boy only hesitated for a moment before launching a torrent of flame at the toothy villain. In the same moment, Bakugo let out a massive explosion directly on the villain's teeth. Moonfish screeched in pain, while Bakugo blasted himself up to the villain's level. Moonfish was quickly and efficiently dealt with once his quirk was neutralized. "Midoriya. Jiru. What's going on?" Todoroki asked. "I didn't need any of your help. You hear me?" Bakugo was ignored. "Villain attack. Someone with a gas-based quirk blocked the way back, so we have to keep going this way. The villain causing the fire is somewhere to our right," Izuku said quickly. "Do we know what they want?" Todoroki asked. Jiru shook her head. For all we know they just want to cause some trouble. Have you seen Ochako, Tsu or anyone else? She asked. No, we haven't. We should be on the lookout for villains, but steer clear of the fire one. Todoroki said. Izuku, Bakugo, Todoroki and Jiru walked through the forest as a group. Bakugo took the rear, grumbling the whole time, while Todoroki took the front. They saved Uraraka and Tsu from a crazy vampire girl along the way, who joined them in advancing. Shoji and Tokoyami also joined the party, once Bakugo, still grumbling, and Todoroki calmed Dark Shadow with light. They kept going for a while, until something felt off to Izuku. Bakugo wasn't grumbling anymore. He turned around and called out a warning to the others. Bakugo and Tokoyami are gone. He shouted. The others looked around until someone chuckled above them. I must say, I thought it would be more difficult. These two will be coming with me, where they can perform on the stage they're meant to be on. A masked man said cheerily. He was holding a pair of marbles in his hand. Todoroki threw an ice wall at him, but the man quickly dodged. I'm afraid I must be going. Ta-ta for now. The villain bounced from tree to tree, heading towards the area they believed the fire villain was stationed. Izuku looked around at his classmates quickly, calculating all possible outcomes. Shoji, pick up Todoroki. Uraraka, make them weightless. Tsu, pick them up and throw them after the villain. Once they reach the highest point of their arc, release them Uraraka. You'll need to judge the timing with your eyes. You two, make sure you get them back from the villains. He said. The students followed his instructions, and the two boys were launched after the marble villain. Izuku went running through the trees after them. He may not make it, but he had to at least try. Uraraka and Tsu followed after him, once the brunette released the other teens. Izuku ran like his life depended on it. He ducked beneath whipping branches and leapt over roots and fallen trees. The green-haired boy emerged into a clearing to the left of the villains. The heavily scarred man had Bakugo by the throat and was pulling him into Kurogiri's warp gate. Shoji had Tokoyami beside him, away from the portal. Todoroki was on the villain's other side, taking their full attention. Izuku moved. That's too bad. Todoroki Shoto. Izuku yanked Bakugo away from the villain by his shirt collar, tossing him towards Shoji. The throw pushed him off balance, and the villain quickly grabbed him instead, pulling the analyst into the portal. The last thing Izuku saw of the training camp was Bakugo's wide disbelieving eyes. Izuku stumbled on the wooden floor, landing on his hands and knees. He was roughly grabbed and forced into a chair, with quirk suppressor handcuffs keeping him seated. Izuku almost laughed. Who's this fucker? He's not part of that stupid hero class. Shigaraki said from his seat at the bar. Hey there handfucker. Portal boy, how have you been? Last time I beat you up was at the USJ. Izuku said brightly. Shigaraki disintegrated poor Portal boy's countertop. You. He hissed. Izuku smirked cockily at the villain. What's wrong Shigi? Got something to say? He asked. Shigaraki twitched and scratched his neck, but he didn't touch Izuku. Sensei wants to meet you, cheater. He's interested in your mind. Once he's done with you though. The villain threatened. The chair Izuku was seated on dropped through a portal, courtesy of the boy. The room he landed in was dark. Really dark. The only light came from a series of machines that beeped and whirred. Good evening Izuku Midoriya. I've been looking forward to meeting you for a while now. Izuku turned to the throne at the other end of the room. A tall man in a bespoke suit sat there leisurely. He wore a black industrial-grade mask, probably to help his wheezing breath. All for one. Likewise. Eri felt lonely. She had Grandma Inko, but she had to do stuff around the house all the time, so Eri couldn't play with her. She missed Daddy. He said he would be gone for a week, and it already felt like forever, but it had only been 3 days. Eri was trying to fall asleep when Grandma Inko came into the bedroom quickly. Eri, sweetie, we've got to go. She said. Eri was worried. Grandma Inko sounded upset. Was Daddy in danger? Was he hurt? A horrible thought came to her. Did Chisaki get him? Eri got dressed quickly and put her shoes on. Grandma Inko gave her a hat to hide her hair and horn, then they left. Grandma Inko took Eri on the train, then they walked, and they arrived at a hospital. It was really dark outside now, but the hospital was really bright. Eri didn't like hospitals. They reminded her of the room. Chisaki's room. The one they heard her in, wearing things like doctors did. Doctors scared her, just like hospitals. Was Daddy scared? Grandma Inko took Eri inside. It was scary, but if this was where he was. They went up to a tall man dressed all in black, with a big white scarf around his face. He didn't look like a doctor. He seemed nice. The tall man was one of Daddy's teachers. He was with him on the trip to the camp. The man apologized, but Eri didn't know what for. She tugged on his muddy sleeve. The tall man looked down at her with tired eyes. Where's Daddy? Aizawa's heart broke. He didn't know what to say. He hadn't even been there. The analyst had acted more heroically than most heroes had. I don't know. I'm sorry. The bad guys took him. He managed to choke out. The little girl sniffed, then wiped her eyes. Daddy will be okay. Daddy's really smart, he can trick them. She muttered. Another part of Izawa died as he watched the little girl sob quietly, trying to tell herself that Izuku would be okay. Nezu arrived at the hospital with Recovery Girl. They entered the lobby to find Mrs. Midoriya and little Eri talking to Izawa. The rat coughed to get their attention, then bowed to the Midoriyas. I am deeply sorry. I will do everything in my power to get him back from the League, you have my word. How dare they take his friend? Nezu would rain hellfire upon the League of Villains, and he wouldn't even need Endeavor to do it. He was going to enjoy this. Very, very much. Chio sighed. It was terrible what happened to those children. And the kindest of them was snatched by those villains. Recovery Girl straightened her back with another sigh. Eri, would you mind coming to help me? She asked quietly. The tearful girl nodded, sniffing and wiping the tears away. Chio felt a small flare of pride in her chest. People needed help, and Eri was ready to do so. Recovery Girl visited each of the Hero Corps students, using her quirk on the few serious injuries and patching up any minor cuts and bruises with the little girl's help. Chio could tell Eri had been practicing to surprise Izuku. Inko watched Eri leave with Recovery Girl. Nezu sat down in a chair with a sigh and gestured for Inko to follow. The principal had become very businesslike. We know thanks to Izuku that the League of Villains are led by a villain All Might faced in the past. This villain is incredibly intelligent and will without a doubt try to use or convert Izuku because of his intellect. I can assure you that Izuku is alive. He began. Inko almost fainted with relief. If Nezu, the smartest being alive, said so, it was almost definitely correct. Now, Izuku knows all this, so he will be able to play the long game of will he won't he. Izuku could probably escape the villains himself, given enough time and information. We have several leads that we know led to the villains, so I assure you that you will have your son back by the end of the week. He continued. Inko nodded in understanding. Thank you. But why did the villains target Izuku? She asked. Nezu sighed. They didn't. They were after Kitsuki Bakugo and Fumikage Tokoyami. Izuku pushed Bakugo away from the villain's clutches and was pulled through the portal instead. Inko sighed. That was exactly something he would do. Eri and Recovery Girl returned to the lobby of the hospital. Inko thanked Nezu and took Eri home. Aizawa remained with his students and Nezu plotted a complex crushing revenge. Recovery Girl had to return to UA. Mirio Tagada had broken his arm in a bizarre accident. Izuku studied the man before him. All for One was powerful, yes, but he wasn't after a battle of strengths and quirks. He was after a battle of intellect. The supervillain gestured and the handcuffs unlocked themselves. Izuku folded his hands in a steeple before his face. Now, let us talk. All for One said. Izuku smiled at the supervillain. What do you want to talk about? He asked. All for One chuckled quietly. Well, I have watched your career with interest. The analysis you have done on heroes and villains alike is most impressive. I would like to request that you join me. I have many uses for the knowledge you carry. He said. Izuku hummed in thought. And if I refuse? He asked. Most unfortunate. All for One surged forwards at an impossible speed. I shall have to make you. The villain reached out and placed his hand over Izuku's face. All Might stood in a room full of heroes. Most of the top 10 were here and several skilled heroes were also present. Nezu was the one leading the raids. Best Genist, take a few heroes and target the Noma factory. The beacon Yaozu was able to make will lead you there. They won't fight back without orders, you shouldn't worry about disposing of them, just move them from where they're supposed to be. That will prevent the Warper from collecting reinforcements. The number 3 hero nodded, gazing down at the map's plans and files strewn across the large table. All Might, you take the lead on the bar raid. That is most likely where they're holding Midoriya. The leader will probably be there too. All Might got the unspoken message. You take All for One down for good this time. If you take him out of the picture, the League will quickly fall too. Izuku blinked. Interesting. He was in a very long, very tall corridor. The walls were bookshelves that stretched up until he couldn't see them anymore and across until they disappeared into the distance. The bookshelves were full of notebooks. Hundreds of thousands of notebooks, all different sizes, thicknesses, colors and formats. Some were ratty old ones, others were shiny and new. A few were old and well worn, but obviously well looked after. Izuku selected an older notebook, opening it. He blinked. He was in a familiar place. The doctor's office. Sorry kid, but it's not happening. Izuku's eyes widened. Interesting. So the notebooks are memories. So this is my mindscape. Izuku was still holding the notebook. He closed it and he went back to the notebook corridor. Izuku turned around, spotting a large wooden door, hanging open. There was a white room, and then another door, also open. Izuku could see a cozy living room, modeled from the pre-quirk era. There was an armchair, and a fireplace. Izuku smiled. This is a very cool quirk. All Might knocked on the door. Camino la pizza delivery. He said. Izuku explored the corridor some more. He found a door, at the opposite end of the long corridor. It was locked tight. The white-haired man in a bespoke suit was trying to get it open. All for one? Izuku asked. The man turned, surprise flashing across his features. What? How are you? Izuku ignored the man, examining the door. It was labeled Izuku. So, opening this door lets you control me? Or gives you all my knowledge? He asked. All for one sighed. It should, but I can't get it open. There's normally a dead light above the door, but this one is on for some reason. The man said. All for one rounded on Izuku. However, if I kill you then all of this becomes mine through the link. He said. Izuku dodged the villain's grasp, breaking into a sprint back down the corridor. All for one followed close behind. You can't run from me, boy. He called. No more running and hiding, Shigaraki. This ends tonight. Where is young Midoriya? All Might asked. Shigaraki growled. You damn heroes. I hate you all. You hear me, All Might? I hate you. The villain hesitated a second, clearly expecting something. Nothing happened. Izuku narrowed his eyes in concentration as he ran down the corridor of bookshelves. Notebooks were nice, but a door would be far more useful right now. A few seconds later, and a door came into view in place of one of the many rows of bookshelves. Izuku yanked the door open and stepped through, slamming it shut behind himself. He was met by a corridor of many doors lined up beside each other. He smiled. Perfect. All for one was a patient man. He'd waited 100 years to squash one for all for good. He'd waited many years to execute his revenge on the 8th All Might. But this quirkless child was starting to annoy him. He'd opened a door that hadn't been there before, and once the villain himself opened it a few seconds later the boy had vanished. For what seemed like hours they'd played cat and mouse through the boy's memories, thoughts and feelings. All for one reached the door at the end of the corridor, with Izuku on it and a light still on above it. The door that All for one had been trying to break into was open. It had been closed over, but this was definitely where the boy had escaped to. All for one yanked the door open and stepped through, smirking in victory for a few misguided moments. It was a large barren room, with a stage at the opposite end. About 10 meters away, on the stage, the green-haired boy that had given All for one so much trouble was dancing behind a microphone. There was music playing from somewhere, a tune the villain vaguely recognized. There was a second door labeled exit behind the boy, with a big neon sign above it that just read gotcha. The first door slammed shut behind All for one, and Izuku smirked. Then he started singing. Izuku opened his eyes. All for one's body was slumped on the floor, lifeless. I am the ruler of the underworld. I am feared by every hero that has ever walked the earth. I am the most feared being in the world. All Might himself trembles before me. Turn this fucking music off, or I swear your death will be excruciating. Izuku chuckled to himself, singing along to the music in his head as he searched the hideout. Never gonna give you oop. He opened the door, peering cautiously into the corridor. There wasn't a person in sight. Never gonna let you down. Izuku walked down the corridor, peeking into each room as he passed. Chemical lab. Storage room. Janitor cupboard. Nomu production room. Chemical testing facilities. Guinea pig test room. Bingo. Never gonna ruin around and desert you. All for one screeched in rage from inside Izuku's head. You dare. You dare to cross me? I will slaughter everyone you love. I will hunt down every person you have even seen and murder them without hesitation. Izuku looked around the room. There were a few glass boxes, some cages with guinea pigs in them, an operating table with a body strapped to it, and a large bin labeled organic matter disposal. Never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye. Izuku opened one of the cages and chose a nice fat guinea pig, opening the door keeping All for one inside his head. I am the darkness. I am all powerful. I lurk in the shadows and hunt at my whim. You cannot do this to me. I. Never gonna run around and desert you. Izuku finished with a smirk. The guinea pig squealed in adorable rage, wiggling its fluffy little legs in a tiny temper tantrum. Let's go home, All for dumb. Erie's gonna love you. He grinned wolfishly. Izuku put All for one in a little cage and picked it up by the handle on top. There was a rumble from the Nomu factory area, which Izuku went to investigate. Mount Lady, Best Jeanist and Tiger were there, alongside several other pro heroes. Oh look, the pro heroes. Sure is lucky I dealt with you before they got here, huh? Izuku asked. He shook the cage, earning a torrent of squeals that were probably better off untranslated. Izuku was noticed by Best Jeanist. Midoriya. Are you alright? The stylish hero asked, approaching carefully. Izuku nodded. I'm fine. The League of Villains leader is dead. The room 7 doors down to the left, you'll find his body. The guinea pig stays with me. Nezu will want to talk to it," he said. The hero just nodded, putting his finger to his ear. "We have Midoriya. Apparently he dealt with the leader himself." There was a pause. "Of course." Best Jeanist turned back to Izuku. "What is Nezu? We need to know if you are who you say you are," he asked. Izuku chuckled. "He is part rat, part bear, part dog and part mouse. A chimera of sorts." Best Jeanist nodded as he received confirmation from the comms. "Follow me, Midoriya. Nezu is waiting for you at the second site," he said. Izuku stepped out of the Jeanist mobile, approaching Nezu, who was amongst several police officers and heroes. Shigaraki and the rest of the league were being bundled into an armored truck to be taken away to Tartarus prison. Nezu hopped off the stool he was stood on and approached his friend. "Izuku. I am glad you are okay." "What?" He was interrupted by several squeaks from the cage Izuku was holding. The greenette just put a finger to his lips, which Nezu understood. That didn't stop the Genii from staring at the guinea pig, cackling maniacally. "I will ask how you were able to do this later. For now." "Well, he's not really a threat anymore, is he?" Nezu said. Izuku chuckled. "Nope. I won't kill him, that's too easy." Izuku leered at the small caged animal. "I'll let him live like this for a while. I want to mess with him." All Might emerged from the building they had raided to capture the league. "Young Midoriya. I am glad you are alright. I apologize, but there is another matter to deal with." "Nezu, has there been any word of him?" the hero asked. Izuku coughed, while Nezu burst into another fit of evil laughter. "Indeed. It would appear Izuku was able to defeat him," he said. "Best Jeanist retrieved the body just moments ago." All Might hesitated for a second. "I am sorry. I don't believe I heard you correctly." Nezu chuckled. "Oh, you did, All Might. All for One is dead." All Might stared at Izuku. How?" he asked. Izuku smiled. "Let me explain." Nezu put his phone away just as Izuku had finished explaining. They were in the car, headed to the hospital to get Izuku checked out. "So he used a mind control quirk that didn't work how he expected, and you were able to trap him in your mind and sever the connection to his body, completely killing him," Nezu summarized. Izuku nodded. "Yup. I took this little guy." Izuku shook the cage, earning a stream of squeaks that made Nezu wince. "So that Nezu or Kota could get information out of him." All Might sighed, slumping in his seat. "So he really is dead. For good this time," he muttered. Izuku and Nezu exchanged a glance. The car rolled to a stop, and the three of them got out and walked up to the hospital. "Here, can you take him for me?" Izuku asked, holding the cage out to Nezu. The creature nodded, taking the small cage and watching Izuku get looked over by a nurse. "So, you're stuck like this now," he said to the smaller animal. "It's only a matter of time." All for One squeaked. "I will escape that brat's clutches and get my body back, as well as my quirks." Nezu chuckled. "Actually, we had Endeavor cremate your corpse, and Cementus will be burying your ashes somewhere only he will ever know. Even then, you think you could escape Izuku? Where would you go once getting out of his apartment? How would you avoid traffic or bigger animals like hungry stray dogs? How would you eat? Face it, All for One, you're stuck like this until you die in a few more years. Guinea pigs don't live for nearly as long as humans," the rat said. All for One growled. "Then I will slit his throat as he sleeps." Nezu smiled dangerously. "Then I will hunt you down and torture you until the end of your miserable days. I was an experiment, I know exactly how much pain an animal can take. All for One. Don't test me." The ex-supervillain gulped, remaining silent. Izuku returned and took the cage back with a smile. "So, what did you two talk about?" he asked. "Slitting throats and promises of agonizing torture. How did your checkup go?" Nezu asked. Izuku laughed. "I'm in perfect condition." "So, when are?" The doors were thrown open by a short green-haired woman and a tiny white-haired girl. "Izuku," Inko said, crushing her son to death in a bear hug. "Hey mom," Izuku said. "I'm so glad you're okay. Did the villains hurt you? Are you hurt? Can you come home?" she asked worriedly. Izuku smiled. "I'm completely fine. No injuries or issues to speak of," he reassured her. Inko sighed, but her expression remained tense. "If I ever meet the villain that wanted you taken," she muttered, her fists clenched. All for One gulped quietly. Nezu sent him a pointed smile. Eri latched onto Izuku tightly, burying her face into his side. The greenette stroked the girl's hair affectionately. "Hey Eri. It's okay, I'm not hurt. I'm sorry for leaving you, are you okay?" he asked softly. Eri let go of Izuku, now beaming up at her father. Izuku smiled in return. "Hey Eri, do you want to meet someone?" Izuku asked. The girl nodded hesitantly. Izuku held out the cage that contained All for One. "This is Tashi," He smiled. All for one squealed in rage. Don't you dare give me that name. If you name me after that bumbling oaf, I swear I will. Eri peered into the cage. Hello there, Tashi. She said brightly. Dear God, I have to live with these people. All for one muttered, squinting as he looked the sun in the face. That's it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. With that, take care.